meeting to order. And let's ask everybody to please stand and we'll say the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if everyone would stand for a moment of silence, just remembering all those who passed from this dreadful virus and our first responders and medical personnel taking care of them. Thank you. And you can have a seat. Is anybody recording this meeting? Okay.
You got the picture of me.
All right, so we're just spreading out a little bit because just to keep in mind of social distancing. So that's why David and Mike are up here. And the purpose of this meeting is to get a sense of the goals that the things you accomplished in 2021, some of the goals that you might have for the coming year. And we would invite you to step up to the microphone. We're going to start with historical. Come on up.
Right off the bat, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
I'm actually going to go off script to start. Oh, for anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Ted Roberts. I've been a resident of the township for, I don't know, most of my adult life, all of my adult life.
It's a 2-minute time limit, 2 minutes.
Okay. And I'm actually fortunate to live in one of the historical properties.
We know where you live.
Okay. I didn't know if anybody knew that.
Not everybody does. You know? Oh, it's a very important intersection. Ted, tell them where you are.
352 on King Road. Don't beat, I don't hear horns anymore. That's what I tell everybody.
You remember what happened with that intersection? Or was what was under consideration for that intersection?
Twice, yeah, on my watch.
And it stayed the way it is.
So, real interesting story, and it will come out in more detail to hopefully share with the entire township. Back in November, one of our residents that was restoring a historical property had a third-party company come and do an artifact dig. Brought their metal detectors out to search the property. And are you actually sharing the video? Okay. You're going to see. Oh, okay. We're going to actually show you video. We might go over time with that.
That's okay.
So one of the things they found was a class ring. And with the initials on it was it BEP? BEP, they believed, since it was Price Farm, they believed to be one of the Price family members. In November now, this woman reached out to the Chester County Historical Society to see if they could offer help in finding this. And until about, was it Friday, last week? Was this Monday? That was last week, late last week. It was dispatched to the East Goshen historical side of the house. And with the help of Jason and some of our local historians, they found the owner, the original owner of the ring. She was one of the Price family's, Bertha, Elizabeth, right?
Bertha Elizabeth Price was the owner of the ring.
Yeah, owner of the ring. We found her daughter. They found her daughter, Nancy. Nancy will soon be reacclimated with the ring, rejoining the ring. It'll be part of her possession. And the interesting thing is she's 80. The ring's 90, so she's never seen it.
Oh,
She's never seen it. So, you want to roll video?
It's just a couple of minutes. The house is on Strasburg Road, built in the 1800s. There's the home.
what does it say on it?
Westchester High School,
Get out.
1930.
Wow.
Spoke rich, did.
Yeah.
So we're thinking of getting the publisher clearinghouse van and doing it right. Jason and I.
Okay, I gotta tell you.
1930?
We'll have to see who was living in this house at the time. If this could have been got by somebody.
That's fairly cool. Could you do a voiceover on that? And put it on YouTube?
Well, you don't want my voice, because I am the voice of a 15-year-old boy. But,
And he's gonna want it back one of these days. That would be cool if you could get somebody to do that.
yeah, we're doing some type of newsletter or article or video type thing. This is pretty,
Or video.
We were consulted in 1930 Westchester High School year, and we had one pick. Bertha Elizabeth Price graduated in 1930,
Cool.
and her name was the initials. So who was Bertha Price? We went to Ancestry.com and found her marriage certificate. Bingo. In 1937, she married C. Wilmer Suckley. From our historic research, we know that C. Wilmer Suckley owned the property under the name of Suckley Farm from 1949 to 2002. We even found a picture of Bertha from 1956 with her husband
that's
and
mom and dad
father-in-law.
right there.
in one of the historic
We're gonna give
Ivy
them
Gardens.
it all.
Next steps are to call to see if we can find Bertha's family. Can you imagine getting a call with someone saying they found their grandmother's ring? We will certainly keep you posted as the story unfolds. Of course, a huge thanks to Jim and Bill from the Pennsylvania Historic Recovery Services. You have truly brought our research full circle.
Great. That's nice. I wonder what the story was behind the lost ring, though. Was it unrequited love and somebody turned the ring off, you know?
Yeah, I'm still looking for a mountain lion pen that I think is $300, and I don't think I'll ever find it in my yard. Somebody 50 years, 100 years will dig that up in my yard. So, anyway, representing the Historical Commission, I have been revoted as the chair. We, at this point in time, don't have a vice chair. So let me just go through the 2021 accomplishments. Not all of them are good, but these are just the things that happened. So we were able to hold 6 meetings in person. 4 of them were at quorum. Back in January, we had 2 new members join the board. We'll elaborate on that a little later. We were given 2 motions to vote on. One was from the Goshen monthly meeting for historical marker and bench. This was back in September. We voted to have the Goshen monthly meeting give us a final of their design and location that we would then send our approvals and recommendations to the Board of Supervisors for your approval. As of now, we haven't heard anything back from them. Also in September, the Malvern Institute has a open land development plan. They asked for a waiver of the historical resource impact study. The Historical Commission at that point voted unanimously to reject that request. So those were our 2 voting.
Excuse me, what did you say you asked for approval from Goshen?
That was September.
Any reason why?
And they came over in the minutes. Any reason why we haven't seen it since September? Is that your question?
Yeah, Ted, did no one get back to you that the board?
It's approved.
Had a presentation and approved it?
It's
No one
approved.
got back to you?
No, I never got anything.
You
I
got-
should have done that, yeah. Just let you know.
The Historical Commission hasn't met since you guys did
That's
that,
probably the
so.
reason.
Yeah, I fell down the stairs right
Oh,
before the November meeting and locked out my shoulder. And in December, we took a COVID break. So,
well, it wasn't for the board, but it was unanimous, and it was a nice, I can't remember the
Thank
attorney
you.
representing.
I didn't know either, that's what I was saying.
it's like, didn't we do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it.
We did it.
And that's gonna be a nice little
Yeah,
mark.
it was the same attorney that did, that came into the meeting.
Sorry, Ralph.
Got it. And we haven't heard anything from the Malvern Institute yet either, have we, Mark? Or has that been updated?
They haven't presented their application yet.
So just a couple other updates. Thanks to Jason, a lot of work from his team and anybody that got to try Locust Lane Brewery's beer at the we're not gonna call it the Oktoberfest, the food truck. You saw the East Goshen Blacksmith Shop can, which was, their graphics were beautiful. It was really nicely done. So it was nice to get those out. Do we know the final number that were actually distributed?
All of them.
It wasn't all of them, it was
So
254 packs.
Oh,
that's
oh, that's good.
Sounds beer, not a-
Wow.
We got one more next year for you then.
Okay. I'm gonna get a motion to put a keg on the shelf. So updating on the ornaments, this year we sold 36 and collected a net after taxes of $573.40. That's a total of 177 sold out of the 600. We still have inventory in the Sullivan House and the Blacksmith Shop. They will actually trickle through the year. The Sullivan House has actually been the best seller. And what we've learned, what I've learned is the primary person that's been present trying to sell these things is you have to put them in the right place when people are at the right frame of mind. And the Sullivan House does a great job at Christmas time, and it just nails the two. Because they're in the house and it's Christmas time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna invite everybody in the township to the Blacksmith Shop on the 23rd next year. What are we gonna do? Something. So then, looking at, as the year kind of wrapped up from our membership side, Ken moved out of the area. So he actually departed back in I believe it was April was his last meeting of this year. Mary has resigned her position and Kelly has resigned her position. So as I'm transitioning into 2022, like, what is our primary goal? And I mean primary goal. We have to almost rebuild this. We have 3 vacant members. Chuck's term ends, Charles' term ends in 2022. Ed will likely resign at the end of this year and move on to better things in life. So we're looking at 6 is the number. Yeah, it's a rebuild. And the reason I say 6 is the last item on there is Dan McCall, who was one of the new members in January of last year, was absent completely after that and is basically determined AOL at this point. I've heard nothing from him. So, goal number 1, we need to find 6 members in 2022. We're gonna struggle to vote any, if we're given anything in the early part of the year, we're gonna struggle to vote anything through. I don't know, what is the, if we're not at quorum, what do we do? We have a-
Something that I'm actually gonna say after you're done, will kind of tie into that. So go ahead and just continue with the rest of your wrap up.
No, that's great. So one of the goals we do have, Ed has been our historical factotum for years. He has put together incredible files and research on all of our historical properties. So one of the things we're gonna work on is as Ed leaves, we're gonna do our best to make sure all of his files, all the files of the historical properties, starting with class 1, then going to class 2, is converted to PDF. And then once they're in PDF, that will open up the future use to turn them into OCR documents where they are searchable. So you could actually put them online. And that's something that if we have them in PDF, the Chester County Historical Society would actually probably take the PDF and do it for us and make it available, because that's how they want to get stuff now too. So that concludes my wrap of 2021 and where we are going into 2022.
Well, thanks Ted for all that information. It's great. The video was awesome. And I'm just gonna say to the room in general at this point, and we'll say it again later on. First of all, thank you for your volunteerism. We really do appreciate it. We can't do everything we do without the work of our residents volunteering. And we are looking at starting to trim down, possibly merge into another EDC, some of our groups. We're out of alignment with the surrounding townships. We have so many EDCs that we currently have to spread the staff, secretaries and board members to attend every month. We have about 16 currently that we have to, besides the board of supervisor meetings. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to trim it down a little bit and merge a couple of groups together that make sense.
No, it does, and I think you know where we belong.
I think we do, and as we currently operate, like I said, it is quite a stretch for us, and by merging people, it kind of will help, I think, revitalize some of the groups that have had diminished attendance and membership lately. It is a cost-cutting and time-trimming measure that we're looking at doing, and again, bringing it into alignment with the rest of the municipalities across the Commonwealth. So if you have any suggestions or preferences, you might want to send an email to Derek, maybe copy the board or a board member or two. It's your choice. But please do let us know your thoughts. We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. I think we know what we're supposed to do with you, though.
I don't think it'll be that much of a struggle.
I don't think so either. So we really do appreciate your time, and I think it's been a pretty productive year. I was thinking, what other ornament could you possibly, I was thinking actually the Friend Meeting House. Something
We talked
that,
about the Grange.
Yeah.
As a possibility. I think what's more important than anything else is we can figure out how to sell them. And I think as we get into this year, my suggestion is we get into local church bazaars and community events around Christmas time where other people are promoting their Christmas stuff. Because in the absence of anybody buying something for Christmas in that mindset, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, we had hundreds of people at the Oktoberfest at the Trucks in the Park, Band in the Park. I was right next to the WeGo police. Can't call them WeGo anymore because they put Thornbury in it. They haven't.
no, it's always
We still call them WeGo?
Always
Okay.
WeGo.
I'm always gonna call them WeGo. And it's just out of sight, out of mind. You know. So we've got to just figure out 3 or 4 key events that we can put those in, whether, heavily visited by township members and it's a holiday time. Or figure out how to put them online.
I wonder if we can't sell them over at the Goshen Fair,
The one at the high school.
the one at the Goshen Fair, the fire department.
Oh, the fire. In the summertime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried that twice at our summer events in the park. They laughed at me. They looked at me like, Christmas, what are you talking about? But
Anybody have any questions for Ted?
Okay, first things, mentioning the number of meetings, of course, that COVID constrained, but the number of quorums relative to at least the meetings, and the vacancies, resignations, AOL, but however. Is there a sense from any of the members as to why, and I'll kind of give you a leading question, was there enough to do? Was there other things that as a historical committee, commission, I have a question on that, though, it's Mark and then Jason, that you would like to do, that you feel you're not able to do, you don't have the charge of the authority, or there's just not as much to do as maybe is needed for a 5-member or 7-member, or even a 3-member historical body in local government. Any thoughts on that kind of?
yeah, I can share my thoughts, the understanding that there are opinions that we never did an exit survey or a fact check or anything. I asked the 2 new members as they joined, what interests you about this, the history and whatever. And, I didn't get the answer I thought I'd get. I didn't really get an answer.
We just kind of want to serve with the township.
Right. They're, for whatever reason, being new in the township, the business is related to interacting at a broader base. And I'm the only one on the board that has a historic property in the township. So I'm the only one that's affected by, could be grossly affected, moderately affected by any pros and cons that happen in any of the things we put together and execute. And the commission as it has today is basically lacking, I don't want to say more of me, but people that are really tied to the passion and history of the township. Yeah. We're very fortunate that they still stay connected with Jason and the things we do in the park, things we do in the blacksmith shop. Some of the old members that have that. Yeah, but it's, it's like, I'll dress up in the clothes. I think it's kind of cool, but no one else in that group would. And it just wasn't that kind of fit to get into that part of it.
Well, we've seen over, at least I've observed, really from the first time you and I met when you came before the board to seek an appointment. You bring, if you will, color and character and the enthusiasm to a body that needs layers of interest that relate to our past. And with what you've done with your place, I wonder if reaching out to possibly some other residents who have historic properties to say, would you like to join, this group to have more understanding of not just what your property means to you relative to the township, but in the overall context of the other historical properties, and you have an interest already. You've taken up this labor of love, and I'll give you a good example. We have our new residents, Dana and Drew, who were in the mill house, the Hershey's Mill house that they restored, right at Hershey's Mill Road, and if they were watching, they'll probably go, why did they mention my name? But they've done such a wonderful job in bringing that corner back to life and that property. And you've probably seen it start to put its lights on and show it. If you haven't, be a great introduction to say hello. They're a great young
I
couple.
thought about going in there, but I don't want to share my masonry guy with anybody else. They're hard to find.
I think they're pretty well.
You may want to borrow his.
I mean, they're laying a lot of stone there, and I'm not sharing my guy. Masons are hard to find.
But I asked
Stone
them,
masons.
and then the other thing was, and Michelle maybe alluded to, I understand, the sense of if we do some reorganization of the ABCs, repurposing, reconstituting, merging, melding, you alluded that you said that would probably be, I understand where we might go.
Parks and Recs, we are, it's an activity-based program outreach into the community. The more that's done at the blacksmith shop, Plank House next door, the more we do that ties history into activities in the community, and Parks and Recs is just the.
You'd be comfortable with that? And of course, you have Jason, who's a wonderful resource, and maybe there's more momentum with other members of what is now a 9-member Parks and Recreation.
If you put me somewhere else, I wouldn't understand it. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
But we might not need all 6 people.
Well, and that's the other thing, John, that would play off of that as a
Put it
subject.
under Darrell's annex.
I wonder how many people really know the history of East Goshen Township and West Goshen and Berkshire and why Westchester's called Westchester. And it's a fascinating history, and I don't know that our residents really know the history of East Goshen.
How odd is it that I've lived here for 28 years and raised my kids through all through the school system? East Goshen Elementary, Fugate. I don't know if we have any study on that. I think one of the biggest impacts in a historical community, to seek value in that and deliver it is people that spend 3 or 4 years in the township.
Has anyone written?
Well, I was gonna say,
It's in a book. It's picture versions.
There's a couple
and we
You
introduce
want-
it maybe over the course of a series of newsletters to say, here's where we started, here's where the township started, here's, and a few little.
That's a good idea, newsletter. Not only that, though, the
Books are for sale, by the way, for $15.
The last bullet point is one that we want to bear in mind, and I wish Jason were here. We need somebody, not only old and interested in history like myself, we need somebody young and able to convert property files to PDFs. If we can do that and get it online.
Like I said, the
Preserve the
side
record.
probably help with that.
That's a good point, John.
Getting it to PDF is the biggest burden in the technology today. You can have an OCR, and you can actually have it perturbed. I love that word. Hide PII if like my name shows up, the OCR. They're like, this person's name, you have to hide it. But with historical, most people are dead. So
There's the land of Goshen too, that's fiction.
Oh, yeah.
how long?
Yeah.
So you've got over 100, properties on file, and if I pulled the mill file, 60 pages.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
If I pulled mine, 20 pages. You pull some of them, it's 3 pages. So you're looking at, 15 to 20 pages per, to get through all the properties.
One of the things I.
It's only 100 of them.
What's that?
It's only 100.
Yeah, I said about 115 pages, yeah, it's not.
Under
One of the-
resources, right?
One of the
Under
things I
resources.
would like to see if we go to PDF.
We scan them. It's like a one-day job.
I mentioned this.
So we had, that we don't have interior photos. We primarily have just a single drive-by
Yeah.
front facing
What I
photo
was
that we
hoping
did when
we
we
could
built the
do
file.
is
And we're
reach
probably
out-
been missing photos on some.
What I was hoping to do is reach out to people in East Goshen and ask them if they have pictures, that they can identify, older pictures.
Share
of
with
the
the
town.
town.
Yeah, and then pictures always make it more interesting than text.
Yeah.
And that's something, I don't know, that could be a long lasting, endeavor, to get those kind of pictures.
We have a lot of those pictures in the basement, though, by understanding too, and some pictures that have been
There's a lot of stuff.
displayed at different times. So there is a bit of a library here as well.
We will,
Right section, like the role of East Goshen in the Revolutionary War. It was at, the top of the hill and they do history segments and.
Yeah, different eras.
Roll, you need to read stuff, I think that'd be great.
And keep in mind too, that there are some employees that have a lot of history too, like in our public works department. Mr. Miller.
No, the chat.
Point us to Chaz.
He's in the research and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
He does research that's stone up at the Bushnell Pond. He's kind of a lot of interesting stuff. He's good. He's very
I
good.
love stones.
And Rick has a lot of pictures too, I know. I hate to say, but we've got to move on.
No, it's fine, it's fine. I will say one
Thank
thing,
you so much, Ted.
we'll try to we'll take a look at those pictures, and as we're scanning, if it's something that we can match at time to scan in with the property, we'll give that a shot.
And we'll be in touch with you as the board starts to mull over what this is all gonna look like. Michelle, may I ask with one other question? I'll ask it of Mark Gordon. When I was looking through the township code and referencing historical commission, I couldn't find anything in the township code that ordained a historical commission, looking under either the zoning chapter or just in the general legislative code. Is the historical commission, when you use the term commission, that usually indicates that it's been ordained and authorized, and I don't see any.
So Derek is in the process of investigating where each of the ABCs came into being, when they came into being, how they came into being.
Yeah,
So
okay.
he's actually looking into each one of these to find if there's an ordinance, a
Yeah.
resolution that was passed at some point, so he is delving into that.
I may have missed it in the code, but I know codes, and the fact that I didn't see it indicates to me that it may have occurred in a informal way with the board taking a resolution action or a motion, but not ordaining it, and that has implications for
To
either
disband it.
amending ordinances or dissolving them. So,
Right,
so I just mentioned that without taking.
I know,
Okay.
that was a good question. So who do we have? Thank you so much. Grab a treat or water if you need it. Oh, look who we have.
Yes.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
It's great to see you all. Come on up.
How are you, Walt?
Come on up.
I was like the chairman 2 weeks ago.
Oh, you're a new chair now.
Yeah.
Yes, that's another story.
And Dan's, I think, was having some surgery today. Navigation surgery, so he wasn't here, able to support it. So I graciously agreed. Before I go through our goals and accomplishments, I'll just mention 2 facts that are important to know why we do what we do. East Goshen treats, or has treated sewage at 2 places. We have a contract with West Goshen for 1 million gallon per day capacity, and we send them at 750,000 gallons. And our treatment plant, the Creek one, is a 750,000 gallon per day plant.
and it currently sees about 400 to 450,000 gallons a day. So we have two places we have to sort of watch. One, we are sort of a customer, and the other, we're the owner. So what I'll do is I'll briefly list and present a little bit about our 2021 goals and accomplishments, and then I'll go to the 2022 goals. One of the first things, or our first accomplishment was we continue to monitor the upgrades at the West Goshen sewage treatment plant. The West Goshen plant is a 6 MGD plant, which we own, or have rights to one-sixth of that one. And they were doing a fairly substantial upgrade over the last 3 or 4 years. They did not do much maintenance for a number of years, and they also received a much stricter permit from the DEP as far as nutrient removal. So that necessitated, rebuilding the plant, knocking some things down, building some new things. And the cost started out around 24, 25 million and rounded up around 25, 26 million. We are responsible for 1/6 of that. The construction is, I want to say, mostly complete. There are change orders now, and we'll over that for this year's goal. But we do send someone to their meeting every month, so we've had meetings with them on this and on the next topic, which is part of that, to show them that, we are observing what they do, we're looking it over, to make sure that they're not trying to pad their bills, or, just to make sure that we're being treated fairly, and make sure that, that too. The next item is to continue to monitor the upgrade of the West Town pump station. The way our sewage gets to the West Goshen treatment plant, there's a pump station on West Town Way, and that's owned by West Goshen. It's in West Goshen, and it takes our sewage to the West Town and a few other places, gets some from West Goshen, and sends it to the West Goshen treatment plant. That facility was built in the 70s and had not been really touched. The equipment there, the pumps, the electrical, everything, hadn't been touched in 40-some years. And they felt, and for good reasons, maintenance issues and other issues, that it was time to upgrade it as part of the whole treatment plant thing. And we had many meetings with them, many phone calls, and they took over from Rick Smith was helping us. He was helping. He was part of the original agreement 3 years ago at West Goshen. We met with their engineer. Our engineer meets with their engineer. Our engineer reviews their work, just because sometimes we felt they could have done it a little bit less costly. They came back with good reasons. ECO came up with, their requirements. And currently, they had issued, the documents in the fall. They got their bids in December, and in January, they awarded the contract, and it's anticipated to start very soon. It's anticipated to take about 1 year, they should be done by the end of this year. And again, we will be watching them to make sure, the estimates that were shown in there, if you'd like more details, when we do that, in both the treatment plant and this one, we took what we were obligated for, and added a 10% contingency to our funding, sort of preparation, just so that, as you know, we don't get something for $25 million and don't get a contract permission for change orders or something like that. So hopefully the change orders will not be that bad, and we will not need all the money for it, but it's there just to be, thought about just in case. The next item is, and I get one thing, the American, I call it the ARP money, last year's funds were allocated, most of last year's funds is when he did it, were allocated towards the pump station project. Because again, that was somewhat of a surprise, because it started out one number for 2 or 3 years, and all of a sudden it blossomed, and we had no idea why it was doing that, and that's when we started having a lot of meetings. So again, our next item is, our goal is always to implement the I&I program. I&I is important because you want to keep the extraneous flows out of the system, both the grants or whatever, you don't want to make sure you do that. And also, by removing the I&I, which is infiltration. Infiltration is set as, cross connection, so when you push the sump pump into it, crack pipe, inflow is leaking through the joints of the pipe, and that goes to the treatment plant, and it must be treated. It's clean, it's, pumps are there, and you're using electricity to do that. And by removing that, we can decrease our cost, both at our treatment plant
and also West Goshen, because while we are on, a certain capacity at West Goshen, whatever they spend to operate the plant, we must send them that money during the year to pay for treatment of our wastewater. The capital projects that they're doing, they've done for the last 2 years, they did nothing for 20 years, so we didn't have to spend any capital dollars, but every year we must send them money for O&M of the plant. And then if we can keep our flows down, it means we have less flow there, lower cost. Also, we don't have much of an issue because we've been doing I&I for a while, we've kept our flows low. We do have a finite of 1 million gallons capacity. I don't know what the agreement says we go over, we want more, but we shouldn't need that. We've even looked at, we have plans on the shelf somewhere to take some of the flow that goes there and pump it to our treatment plant if the need came. Because that way we have spare capacity at our plant. Again, if everybody goes out or whatever, we use, some of it we use, but there is spare capacity.
My understanding is that we have $1 million in reserve with them too. Is that correct, Mark, or no?
$1 million. Right, we have $1 million.
$1 million is the contract.
Yes, that's what we have.
We don't have we don't have 2 million, we don't have $1 million additional in reserve.
No, they don't have any additional, they have a 6 MCD plant. Their commitment allows them to do that, and they've allocated to certain people, and also a large part of it is theirs. And they don't, they're not gonna, we have what we have, and we do have a fair,
We have capacity, I mean,
Right,
we're
yes.
only at about 700,000.
for 725, 7.
Yeah, so we've got almost 300,000 of capacity if we.
And
Plus we have our own capacity
right,
too.
and our flows have been decreasing, because, higher, and, we have been, thanks to Mark.
I.
You can see, if you want to look into details what they do, you can ask Mark how much they do, again, that led to the one thing that led to the next item after this one. The middle one is probably one of our most important one. We operated our treatment plant and in compliance with no excursions, no exceedances every month. So
Well,
he's
can I
happy with us.
make 2 comments? One, on the pump station, it's important, we did have some meetings which were attended by other board members, and we were able to kind of redirect and negotiate some of those funds because there were things in the project that we recognized weren't really directly related to our project, so we were able to carve those out, so there's pretty negotiations going on with that.
And it's not a small amount of money either. I mean,
So we
all the money. And so we get from the bottom, some
appreciate
rate payers.
the stuff that was being done that we carved out.
And it's tough at times when you are a purchaser. In this case, we're purchasing from another authority, another autonomy, to have a voice. And thanks to the municipal authority and our consultants as well in concert, our voice was heard, which had an impact on the ultimate cost of that project. It brought it down, and a lot of work by the members in detail and technically. So that was I think that was one of the big things that I saw come out of at least strategic planning and if you will, quote unquote negotiation the municipal authority did this year on that pump station.
Right, and just an aside, there are places that do have joint authority, there are advantages and disadvantages to that, where all entities get together and say, 1, 2, if there's 3, 4, 5 townships, they all get together and create a board. But for whatever reasons, this goes back to the 70s when this was all, I have no idea why, but West Goshen owns the plant and has agreements with us, with Wolvestown, I think one of the Lightnings too. So they wanted it that way, that's the way it worked out, and back then DEP didn't want little plants everywhere, so they, gave us one bigger plant, can run better, and we recently wanted to.
Am I correct that our I&I has traditionally been much better than in comparison to other townships, or how we've been managing?
Yes.
We have between 75 to 100,000 now, 2 years and 5.
Proactive, and look, how many feet were televised this year, or this past year, it was over 100,000,
80,000.
80,000 feet
I think
televised.
we might lose
That's a lot.
75,000, there's gonna be more showing up here. Bikes, bikes like Goshen like 25 years old, others are 40, 50 years old. Things happen over time, so it's an ongoing process, and it's good to keep going on, because even though you're moving it, there's always more being.
Absolutely.
Because,
It's failing, it's entropy, it's deteriorating as we sit here. That's just the way it is.
Mhm.
That's why
And one
You're
of
young,
the-
Cody, you know.
One of the things that the INI study, or INI did just discover was the Hershey Hill, part of the reason was, you were going there because there were some issues there, and we did find that by attempting to televise it, we couldn't get the television, couldn't through, we cleaned it, couldn't clean it that well. The pipes are settling, it's soil built adjacent to the stream, it's soggy soil, so the pipe, large portions of that area need to be replaced, we decided to replace the whole thing, because again, when it was put in, it might not have been put in correctly, it's differential settling, and also we're gonna reroute it from under this some tennis court that's there. And next is just some of the, other projects that we had on our goals in, for 2021. Most of them, the pump station and the sewer systems were not done, we deferred for some other, important, so the other things, and also we're gonna attempt to look at some grants for that. The two projects that we still are ongoing, on the plan projects, for capital is the, Ridley Creek Sewer Treatment Plant and caustic soda project. Caustic soda is used to help remove, some nutrients, phosphorus, and nitrogen, also just the pH. The way it's been done historically is someone carries a 50-pound bag up to the top and throws it in. That's a safety concern, because caustic soda is not exactly a nice material and throwing it in. And so we have, the design of the equipment, and we were very fortunate to get a grant that covered probably 75% or 80% of the cost of that, and that is one of the reasons why that plan project is going forward, because the safety issue and also a fair bit of the money was awarded from the state for that. And the other is the influent flow meter replacement. We have some issues with influent flow measurement. DEP's been somewhat understanding, as I understand that, they know they know we have other meters up there trusting that you should have a flow meter up there, and what we're doing is straighten out the pipe, and putting a new manhole with a new metering system in there, so that we have a very good number as to know what's coming to the plant.
And that was all ordered today, so it's like 4 months lead time.
Other items of note, critical need that came up was the UV system. That's, our plant does not use chlorination for disinfection, we use UV light, and the equipment is 12 years old, and unfortunately, the vendor that made it is no longer making that system, they've been bought out and all that. So we are looking into replacing the UV system, and that's, again, funded as some amount of capital projects, and half is from that, and we're gonna hopefully get a better number, but looking at that, so that's, we're looking into that.
And that's an expensive component. Environmentally, it's a better approach than using chlorine in our environment. For all that
It's also,
stuff.
it's a safer way to
But it's expensive.
Well, I was gonna say, didn't you were able to get Hertz to at least hobble us along for right
Yeah,
now?
we have a couple of those that's working now. Unfortunately, it didn't meet the criteria for the Ida storm.
Right.
Because the damage happened in that storm the week before. So, we're on the hook for it. We are looking at 2 different systems, the Trojan and Siemens. And we're going up tomorrow to look at the Siemens. No, we have to go all the way up to, Bucktown and Hazelton's on the 27th. And the Trojan one is the one we're looking at, and it's actually cheaper than what the other one, but we just want to do our due diligence and get it checked.
Plus, for that kind of money, you really have to bid, because, state law, but still, even if you're a private company, you would want someone to keep the other person honest, even though it's your favor, you still want to have competition.
That water that runs over to either be the golf course and stuff.
Separate system.
Right, yes, so we
It
have,
goes through the spray irrigation, and the holding tanks, and then sent up to.
right, part of the year, some of our treated water is discharged through the, that
You're
area there.
worried about the quality of that water, anything with the UV.
Through the, gotta meet all the DEP requirements.
Because our treatment plant unfortunately has very strict limits. The reason for that is
we're at the headwaters of the Weaver Creek, and headwater streams that are very low flow, it's also, a highly classified stream. So we have low solids limits, low nutrient limits, hopefully, or you can see, well, I'll get to the, well, I just mentioned that, we did also apply through our EPDS permit that at the end, 6 months in advance of it expires, so that was put in. Every time you renew a permit, DEP can change the limits. Right, don't anticipate it, but they can do that, so we'll find out what happens. But right now, we do have some cushion on all of our parameters, but, it's not designed for much lower, it's designed for what we're doing, and we'll see what happens. We'll get our permit back. We submitted early November, they have 6 months to get back to us. One thing, the sewer extension study, every couple of years, this is for your thoughts, we evaluate, because one of the, parts of the comprehensive plan is that the township is sewer the remaining parts of the township that are not sewered. That's, sewering people with on systems can be a very contentious issue. So we did a very preliminary evaluation where we need some information. If that's something the board would like us to do, or the community, to further enhance by doing a little survey and see what's going on, fine. If the board's not interested at this time, it'll be their choice. The only way which we will be forced to do something, and we have not heard, is if the health department had received complaints of failing septic systems, then they would, talk to the people there, and they could be forced into doing something, and if there's no place on their property, then we might have to consider that. And that would, there's like 10 subdivisions, and some are much less costly per unit than others to do, but again, you can take your time, look at the information, very preliminary for now, and if it's something that, is of interest, you can pay you if you're not, not other things to worry about, you don't want to close, there. Wasn't your street down 1050 years ago, John, sewer? From what I remember one of the supervisors then was saying the meetings were very long, and back in the mind, yes.
Yeah, the manhole cover at the back in the property.
Let me just pick up that a little bit, and you can tell in Walt's voice the trepidation.
Yes, you can.
The municipal authority, their charge is really to look out for our overall environmental quality, and the relationship of on-site systems to putting it in a sewage system that it's centralized, et cetera, has its value. And they tried to show very briefly with the preliminary some of the cost analysis associated with replacement of systems on site, separate systems versus public sewer. The trepidation is that if this were to be advanced, and I think the municipal authority is saying unless there was consensus to proceed with a full analysis and a rollout to see what the
Right, to do a
what
survey.
it is, that, because the board ultimately, we would own it. The residents would come here irrespective of the municipal authority. And so if the board was interested to pursue, if nothing else, to tell the municipal authority to do some detailed analysis, some alternatives for how it would be financed, the grant potential, what the real cost might actually look to be, et cetera, that would be maybe the first step. And then if there was a comeback from the municipal authority to the supervisor saying, here's our detailed analysis, here's the way the scenarios might work, for various cost options for residents being hooked up, then we move into a second stage. And we're really looking at a potential program that would be over 2-3 years. So I just wanted to kind of share that because there is that trepidation that these are potentially very contentious issues.
Yes.
That's all well and good, and we'll have to do it at some point. I'm still concerned about the first two things on there. The Wolvestown Way pump station is going to cost us apparently another $500,000 that I'm not sure if we have or not. And the Hershey's Mill, with the state sewer line is going to cost us another $500,000. First of all, do we have that money? Turning to you and you, the numbers guys.
It looks at this point, what we do, again, with the stimulus funds chiming in for this next year, the second tranche of that money, it looks like we will have enough and left in the capital reserve date, because we might have.
Yeah, with the current projections that we have, Wolvestown Way Pump Station would be covered with the ARPA funds and probably $200,000 to $300,000 of sewer capital reserve. Other than that, the Hershey's Mill Estates project, it's probably more of $500,000 out of sewer capital reserve. Which leaves us with what?
About $1.4 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, those projects.
Yeah, about $1.4 million after that.
Yeah.
So there are these
$1.4 million for.
$1.4 million in the capital reserve for sewer. Once those two projects are taken care of.
Okay.
But this starts to show up when, you know, we talk about two major elements of the township. One is WEGO and the major cost of the police budget. The other is the sewer infrastructure and the cost there. And these are the two major areas where expenses can really build. This township's been very proactive with its sewer infrastructure management and maintenance and care, but it's still expensive, and we're gonna have these unexpected ones that should be expected, but we don't know where, and that's why we televise them, thus every state failure. But the long-term picture with any of these infrastructures where you need capital reserves going forward starts to build into that future, what do the rates look like? And you can't, historically, some municipalities here and in this region have been almost loath to properly and proactively increase rates, because they don't want to upset the residents. It's not the way to handle a modern operation, local government or an organization. You have to fund what is necessary to sustain in the future. And that's going to be something that's going to come up, because this year we could have another Hershey's Mill Estate. We don't know where it is, even though we televised 80,000 more feet this past year. That's only a third or maybe 25% of our system, linear feet. So this infrastructure, as it ages and fails, there could be some surprises. That's why this COVID, this stimulus money, ARPA has been so, shining light for us. I mean, $1.4 million or $1.7 million, $1.8 million that we got or to receive is, if we hadn't done that, we'd be having to go look for some bond money probably.
And our rates, as shown in the table prepared by West Goshen, are approximately slightly under the median for the county. What they did was, West Goshen has lower rates. One of the reasons why is because they didn't give much name, this is why there's so much money in that. But they put out a table showing everybody, all the sewer things in Chester County, and we are slightly under the median cost. So I think we've done it, the work, and Public Works has done a very good job of being proactive and judiciously spending money, but not, splurging, so to speak. The fact that our rates are just about median to slightly below median, the table somewhere, people want to see it, because we received it from West Goshen. It was part of their meeting list when they were looking to how they wanted to pay for all this with their rate payers and all that. So it was put out there for their people to look
At
at.
some point, we're gonna have to consider raising the rates if we want to replace the money that we're gonna have to take out of the reserve.
And whether that's a gradual, and that's usually the best way, is to phase it in over time, and that's instead of one time, long time.
West Goshen did the other approach, the step one, because they did not much and they didn't raise rates, and now they're gonna have like a 25 or 30% increase over 2.
And by the way, one of the other elements that can influence the pressure on municipal authority and our infrastructure is what Walt referred to with this updated NPDS permit, DPP. They can examine it, and I'll go back to the case study that's still active with West Goshen.
Right.
They have examined them, and they said your phosphorus is too high, and it trickled into a massive infrastructure update for millions and millions of dollars, which affected us, and that can happen. So it's just like these dams. If you leave them in control, unless you take something proactive, there's still uncertainty.
Mike did try to take it to court. I think, in fact, they did take their phosphorus limit to court.
They're not gonna win that. Mike, wastewater happens.
Excuse me, I need to.
One quick question, I'm sure we have to move on here. The question for you is, do you have an idea what the cost would be a survey directly to those residents, would we send them a letter, like, would we provide them a link, how's that?
If you would, in previous jobs, that we did, we sent letters out to the residents to see if they would be interested in going to public service or on site. Because like Mike was saying, like, when he did his development, I think 3 or 4 new systems went in this past year. And Charter Chase, I know of 2.
Right, and one of the approaches we would take is, we would not, if someone was putting in, a new septic system, we would not force them to tie in, because they've already spent $25,000-$30,000 doing that. But in the future, when they needed to upgrade it, if their system failed, obviously, if they want this to fail again, whether it's 10 years or 50 years, depends on what you put in it and how your soils are, but then they would be required to put in. But if, they have just recently done it, even though it's gonna be a hornet's nest, we don't wanna make it, a bear and a hornet's nest.
That's a put in perspective. One person, close to mine, had to replace the system, and ultimately the requirement was he basically had to put in a new wastewater.
Sometimes it's sand mound.
And it was $45,000.
Upwards of 60.
Sure.
Absolutely.
But that code, required to give some different scenarios, the time of resale, possibly that's when you hook up, or you give them, the new owners a few years to make the change to relevant new system. That's part of, I said to the municipal authority, if the supervisors have an interest to pursue this, please do a detailed assessment and come back to the supervisor, see whether they want to roll it out, that it have a full menu of potential waivers, grants of time to make those things, so that you've got the full menu. So something that, yeah, but I just did that, say, well, no, here's how that one would be addressed. So there's a lot to it.
Because I remember knocking on doors, one neighbor says they were upset they did it, and then the next 2 said no, we want it, so it's.
Right,
you
yeah.
never
Yeah.
get full consensus.
Yeah.
And if your system is failing, you really want it because one, maybe, you should like your, that's what the garage stores where you have 5 kids and you put them on second. The others, they just did it 5 years ago and only, a childless couple, they don't care, they don't need it.
Well, it's a lot to think about, and I guess that's something we'll have to mull over a bit. We've got to, we'll definitely have to keep that in discussion.
List our goals for this year. Again, the first 2 are to continue monitoring the West Goshen treatment plant construction costs. That's mostly closeout costs. So the change orders come in and, make sure the final accounting is done correctly. We look, or have our engineer look, also the pumping station, that's ongoing this year. We'll track, we'll go to their meetings as always. They send us a detailed description of what the costs are. Our engineer sometimes looks at it, we ask them to do that. We continue to do the II, that's important, that's very proactive, it's not that costly, we have the equipment, and it helps them, it's environmentally secure, it's financially, smart. Again, continue to operate the plant under the MPDS permit requirements. Hopefully the permit doesn't change, it's leading up to requirements change, that's, again, if DEP wants to, they can. Sewer extension study, that's based on the board of supervisors' thoughts, and, there's not make, quick decision, but it's whether something you think about you want to do in the next year or 2, if you hear from constituents that they have, multiple family systems, maybe that puts that neighborhood to the top. Others, I've been here 40 years, it's still the same plant. We have to do it. The Trump orders in the United States, we have applied for the construction permit, we're waiting for that, all the other, environmentally, wetlands and water and all that's been secured and settled. The interim implement plan projects, the soup team plan, we have the UV system, which we're looking into the caustic soda. Again, that was paid, 75-80% of grant money safety issue. The influent flow meter, that, and all the pumping stations there, they were previous year projects, keep deferring them, we'll defer them again, because they're not really needed, they're nice to have, but eventually they may be needed, but for now, we can keep putting them up. Plus, it allows us to see if there are any grant funds available, and the sewer system. Again,
nice to have some information on where the flows are coming from, the permit meters are not, they're nice to have, but again, they're a need, a want, not a need. If the chance to get some funding, fine, if not, whatever. And then, the pipeline in Super Valley was partially funded last year, again, the second half of this year. We TV'd that, we found there's a lot of leaky pipes there, it's not saying, but the pipe is old, and that's online for doing the line of pipe, but it's broken, it's just a situation had one, there's others. You put a plastic curing liner in there, and that makes the pipe good for another 20, 30 years. Much more, there's no excavation or anything.
So you've got the West Town Road, treatment plant, you've got the, earthen, estates, and you've got the EV. They all have to be done. Right? Is there anything else that has to be done?
Because we sort of, but again, that's.
Okay.
Motion granted.
And then,
That's not a-
and those
that's not a
stuff is
big price.
ordered and all that.
Okay.
I would say that for next year, we need to allow about half an hour for the municipal guarding. It's very important stuff. The thing is, it's really important. We do need to allow a little more time. And the other thing is, I think that we would probably like to have, Walt come back maybe in, maybe 2 months to give us an update.
But yeah, I'll look and see what information you have, and then once more appropriate, plus we can then, if you want to discuss more on the sewer extension, if that's something you're interested in, or if you're not, we can do that, in the work session or something like that.
Good.
Just maybe something you don't want the public to know that we're thinking about, exactly, Sure.
Man,
Well, thank you for all your service, I mean, between the Conservancy Board and the Municipal Authority,
Thank
your
you.
chair of the Municipal Authority this year, you've been invested in the township. for a
thank
long
you very
time.
much.
As I told Rich Smith many years ago, it was my hobby. It's interesting, that's why, plus, I'm an environmental engineer and I've done projects, so it's all, I've experienced it and trained, and it's something
Thank God for residents like you. We're a little behind the schedule here, Jason. Yeah. Fantastic.
How about the chair of the Parks and Recreation?
Well, in trying to have less folks here, I decided I would speak on behalf of the Park Commission.
Pick up the ball.
Yep, so we're, Park Commission is the full 9 members, like always. Danny Light was the chair for the last 3 years. Debbie Snyder was the vice chair. So for 2022, 2023, Debbie Snyder will be the new chair. New vice chair is Eric Tobin. One of the nicest things about the Park Commission is that out of the 9 members, we typically have 8 members or so that are on for 1 or 2 cycles. And then 1 person might drop off, we get 1 person with new blood. So we have a really high level of continuity. Because we have the chair and vice chair kind of scenario, Debbie's gonna step right in and she already flooded me with a million ideas. So she knows how we operate, she knows how to interact with the public and the board, all that kind of good stuff. So, in terms of 2021 accomplishments, I would just lead with, we were able to host all of our programming in the park, which was, the first feather in the cap, coming out of the first wave of COVID, this was the first year we were really able to do programming, so, egg hunt happened, summer camps, the festivals, food days, etc. And the Park Commission really helped with, navigating different flexible things that we had to do and spacing, and the egg hunt, we had a mask on the funny to keep it fun for the kids, things like that. But that's really kind of the bread and butter is, as we've all seen during COVID, the park has been like the place where people have gone. So it's been great to be able to support that, meet to the public, and really this year move into the program. Just some other accomplishments. We partnered with the college to do the carnival really in June, which was super duper cool. I wish we could have done it not during COVID and had 5,000 people there. So we literally took our plastic bags and turned them into like super exotic, sexy dresses and things. It was really cool. We did our first art walk with the Art Association, which we'll be doing again. The teen showcase, again, was great at the movie Tavern Next. We had the limo there, the show was there, they hopped out of the limo, red carpet photography, got to see the original films on the big screen at the movie Tavern Next. So for these like 15 to 16-year-old kids, it was just like a mind-blowing experience. I could only imagine being that age
And the furthest, the one that traveled the furthest was from Hawaii.
Yes, yeah, we had a mom and dad, or a mom and daughter coming from Hawaii, visiting family in Connecticut and drove down. And they had like Hawaiian dresses on, gave everybody flowers, they're adorable. Camp, we crushed it at camp, 400 spots sold out in 2 days. Everything was really great. We, with gold medal finals, I have the plaque over there again this year, which was great. And then, one neat thing we did the kudos to Ted and the historical commission. We did the Ranger meet and greet in December, and it was really neat on a couple of different levels. We had the Christmas tree down here in the lobby, and we had 200 or so gifts that residents brought in for families that went to the schools. And then our senior club wrapped the gifts, and then the gifts were part of the reindeer event at the blacksmith shop, and our quote-unquote elves rewrapped the gifts and moved them around and got to interact with the public. And that was a Friends of East Goshen event, which was a fundraiser for that. So kind of moving forward in 2022, we're really looking for more opportunities to partner as a park commission with the Friends, to offer more revenue-generating programs for them, which obviously comes back to us to support Community Day, the festivals, et cetera, et cetera. And then so for this year, for 2022, priority goal number one is to still stay flexible and do as much as we can in the parks, virtually, whatever we do. As a park and rec commission, we want to stay engaged with our public in whatever ways we can. For me, professionally, we're going to be getting the rec program creator sometime here in the spring, which I am very, very excited for. So they'll be able to support what we're currently doing, and then also offer a lot of new programming. So, typically this building on a Saturday, Sunday, Ghost Town. And the one issue that parents have always said to me is, I love your toddler thing on a Thursday, but I'm a working mom. I can't get there till Saturday. So can you do this on Saturday? So we have a really big target group of, working families, single moms, single dads, et cetera, that want to do our stuff, but can't do it except for Saturday, Sunday. So I think this new person will be able to make that bridge and lead and turn this into more of what I'm calling community center. So, other things, we hope to do the full day camp, fingers crossed, the school lets us do that. More nature programming, we got the grant last year to put the beehives over the blacksmith shop, which is really, really cool. Downstairs, we have 15 youth, about this big, up to adult-sized beekeeper outfits. So if anybody wants to try one on, you can come on over, and I'm sure Carter would love to give you a lesson. We're gonna take a look at bringing back the farmer's market in some capacity. There have been some dynamic changes in the farmer's market atmosphere, which might lead to something occurring. We'll see, test the waters maybe and see how that goes. I'm sure by the time the summer rolls around and the new person has had their feet wet and they'll be able to research it more, we'll come back with some type of presentation that goes there. Just some other fun things. The Eagles will be doing a camp in July in the park, which would be cool. 1 day weekend thing, Eagles players, the mascot thing, whatever. That'd be pretty cool. I'm a Niners fan, so you can have it, but I'm a happy guy. Yes. And then just a couple other things. We're looking at in what ways we can create more artistic expression in the parks, some type of installation, art programming, etc. And then really bulking up that relationship with the Friends. And then just quick teaser, we will be hosting a surprise event in the park August 15th, which will be spectacular. It'll be on the playground. You will want to be there. You will not want to miss it. Bring your kids, bring your grandkids. It will be the coolest thing that we've ever done. I'll leave it at that. Any questions?
Are you a relative of Barnum and Bailey?
It's waited a great egress. You didn't include one of the things I asked you about, and I think I have support for it. I'm concerned that we don't have enough going on in the southern part of the township. It's all up here in the north, and we don't serve the people in the southern part of the township well enough. There's a park down there, Mark was good enough to take me down. It's a pretty good piece of land, but there's not much on it. And I'd just like to see us not make a huge effort, but periodically maybe put a little parking in there, maybe we have, some more, playground stuff. The people that live in the southern part of the country, they pay taxes too. And it's not always easy for them to get in a car and come all the way up here. I'd love to be able to see people walk to that part of the Mill Town Park.
Yeah, I think that would be a great opportunity in the next 5 years, in this next decade, to really build a new focus there of activity and opportunity for programming, et cetera. So, yeah, that's really.
We actually, we did talk about it, John, I talked about it with John a little bit, and I'd really like us to do something that's all abilities. Something small, something quiet. We don't have anything really that is on that side of the township, but also we don't have anything that really meets the needs of some of the special people we have in our township. And some of the children who are in need of different stimulation than just the regular playground that we have. Playground, it's spectacular. But it doesn't meet the need for other children who need less stimulation. We need to really start looking at that component, that particular demographic. And I think there would be a lot of grant opportunities for something like that. So it's something that we did talk about, and maybe it's not something this year, but we need to start talking about it more.
Certainly a resource, Jason, and then with the new program manager to assist you, you'll have the opportunity to expand your ideas and implement some of them, and this is a good one. Can I ask a question, Jason? We have a 9-member Parks and Recreation Board. Do you feel that the 9 members are an effective number for that body relative to the work that you're doing for both support and active participation? And also, 2-part question, if we are reconstituting, thinking about reorganizing some of the groups, i.e. say the historical, with a C, whatever it is, commission or committee, the possibility of maybe some of those members having designations of being a liaison, but possibly a subcommittee that may come in under Parks and Rec, to have a more focused attention. So how's the 9-member working out? Is there room for more active involvement of those 9 members? Do you feel like it's too many? What's your take on the expansion of that?
Yeah, I think 9 is a good number.
You don't want 13?
They like herding cats. I think 9 is a good number, because Parks and Recreation is very, hands-on, you have to wear boots and get dirty and whatever. So it takes like physical hours. So to your question, I think the members are very creative and collaborative in our meetings. So, we don't have a quote-unquote dead weight of a few people that just don't contribute. I think all 9 members contribute. I think that there could be people that would be interested that are on the park commission that would say, like, I really like history too. I want to send a park commission, but I would be interested in the subcommittee. Right. To your point real quick about Milltown, I'm glad you brought that up. I do have a memo for you guys for next week. We kind of talk about it.
Oh, great.
I'm not surprised.
But as, I think I'm the only resident down in that neck of the woods, I'm excited for you. So thank you. I know people around me are excited about the dam being fixed and the opportunities that we have down there to really get involved in the 9th precinct, across the highway with the condos. I think people are really going to be excited. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
And if not Michelle, Christy forgets to mention it. The bench back there.
Don't sit on it.
No, I tried it already.
But the bench was created by Trek Bench Program. The township residents donated 500 pounds of plastic bags in the park, and Christy and Mary pulled them out, cleaned them up, threw them in the back of the park, took them out, dispersed them, etc. And then after 500 pounds, they gave us the bench. So at some point in the spring, you guys have to put it in the park.
Thanks, Jason.
Jason.
Thank you, Jason, good job.
Yeah.
All right, next is Pipeline Task Force. Right along.
Moving right along. You're making time here, I promise. Okay, my name is Bill Wegman. I'm the co-chair, co-chair for the Pipeline Task Force. I've been in that position for 3 years since we started the task force. I do want to give a shout out for Jason because I had a couple of family members that have come in from around different states, and we've taken them to the park, and they are amazed and blown away with what's accomplished. The whole township, but really, great job overall. So what I'll do is just give you a brief overview of the 2021 accomplishments, and I would like to say if you want to marry up, I understand you may want to combine some of the committees. I think the historical committee would be perfect for the pipeline task force. There's a lot of pipelines in the township and in the same decade, so it might be a perfect match.
Only problem, Bill, we just need more documentation from the owners of the pipeline.
Okay, so I'm going to take this brief for 2021 accomplishments, really redefine the task force purpose and the mission statements, expand on our advisory role and also get into more action, and look for actionable items, which I think we really did a good job working with the board of supervisors this year. Achieve full staffing of the task force to 7 members. We did lose a couple of members last year, and we were able to replace them, and I'll get into why now we're down a couple more. Establish liaisons with other East Goshen Township agencies. We have members that were assigned that would attend, whether it was a planning commission, historical commission, the committees that would establish a relationship with them. Continue our outreach relationship with the state representatives. And, I do this not just with the task force, but also with EGC that I've been doing for the last 4 years. I would use the local representatives, with the state representatives, senators, congressmen, talk about some of the issues with pipelines. And just for the record, for about the 15th time, I am not pro-pipeline, I'm not anti-pipeline, I just stick to the facts and just try to bring, to the attention of the citizens. I did have the opportunity for the last 3.5 years to be the closest house in Bowtree to the Kent Road drilling site, so the echoing in my ears is still going on after 3.5 years. They finally pulled out this past spring. Some of the other accomplishments, we investigated the HDD 521 subsidence utilizing professional geologist Dr. Iris Siskowski. And this was really brought to the attention of the news that hit with the Philadelphia Inquirer that there was a potential subsidence. Whistleblower that worked for the pipeline company had brought it up. There was a subsidence. He was terminated from the company. We actually hired, with the board's approval, a professional geologist to come and see if there was any potential exposure for the township. And we can sleep safe at night after his 6-month investigation. Came back and said, no, there were some other issues there, but it was probably didn't have to do with any subsidence due to the pipeline. We provided detailed comments for 2020-2021 Chester County Hazard Mitigation Plan, specifically for the vulnerability assessment of hazardous liquid and gas pipelines. That assessment, if you haven't seen it, was brought to our attention by one of our members. Absolutely fantastic. We spent a lot of money, had a lot of detail that could answer questions for the township residents in a fairly simple format that we wouldn't have to spend additional money on in the township. We reviewed and provided explanation of Bowtree site surface water testing in conjunction with this effort. Also reviewed the Wolvestown Conservation Trust water supply sampling program. Other items, we provided input and requirements for the pipeline awareness study regarding the zoning ordinance, and really thanks to the planning commission, Ernie and his group. You folks just did a fantastic job, and a lot of work was put in. A little bit of advice on our side, but that was really the planning commission to move forward with that. Provide questions regarding modifications at the Adelphia Valley Station and Paoli Pipe. Provide input regarding the Boot Road Pump Station leak. Provide questions to Sunoco regarding the pipeline maintenance at Line Road. And then jointly with the Board of Supervisors, composed and sent a letter dated 8/7/27/21 to the Pennsylvania PUC, sharing concerns that align with the Chester County Commissioners and requested immediate shutdown of the Sunoco pipeline. Those are the 2021 accomplishments. What I'd like to do is go into the plan I'm doing this year. Explore the development of an East Goshen Township specific hazard mitigation plan for pipelines. Why do we want to do that? Because if you look in your township, for those of you that don't know, there were 9 pipelines in the ground up until Mariner was being completed, and now put to 11. Those 11 pipelines, there's 5 companies that come through this township that all have There's right of eminent domain that can come through at any time if they want to change, repurpose, et cetera. It's up to all of us to have a vested interest in what's going on in this township. There's only one other township, and I think it's Euclid, that has the density of pipelines per square mile that we have in East Goshen.
Bill, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
Ask you, can you tell us how many of the lines that are going through our township and NGLs flowing through them?
From what I understand, there are 2 lines going through that have NGLs coming through. And the older pipelines that are coming through, and I wasn't joking when I dated with that ring, you've got pipelines in this township that were put in the 1930s. Okay, we're gonna continue to monitor the active 11 that we have in here with the 5 different companies. We'll coordinate meetings with East Goshen Township Emergency Management Coordinator, EMC, and review the role of EMC in the relationship to natural gas liquid pipeline safety. One of the things that I do want to make note here, and I really appreciate, Michelle, that you took it upon yourself to go down to Houston, Texas, am I correct? You took it upon yourself to go down to Houston, Texas, and ask a lot of those specific and poignant questions of energy transfer and Sunoco to get some answers back, because the monitoring for what goes on in the pipelines up in this area is not done from Pennsylvania, it's done from Houston, Texas. You had an actual opportunity to see the monitoring when you went down there. I think you kind of put them on the spot, answer some specific questions that you really felt that you needed a little more detail on.
I asked that they asked for all those questions ahead of time. And so I gave them the ones I wanted to give them ahead of time, and then I surprised them with the other ones that they, that I wanted to see their reaction to when they answered me. And I don't necessarily like the answers that I got and shared with you all on some of them, but the fact is, at least they were forthcoming. And there are 3 sites that are monitoring. There's one site that's the primary, and they're run on PLCs, which means that it's an UPS. It's an uninterruptible power source, which means that even if their electricity goes out, which occasionally does in Houston, they're on a continuous power supply. And if that ever kicks in, then it's uninterrupted, but they will start up their next secondary facility. And then there's a tertiary facility as well. So, and it's located in a different place, different city. So, at least there's that. They're monitoring, and they do give their employees adequate time to step away and take a break, because it's mentally exhausting. I think watching all that. But yeah, it was really, really eye-opening.
I think it was like an air traffic control of those pipelines.
Right.
Bill, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was a big effort that you put in.
That was, and I'm the only supervisor they've never had anybody at that level ever go down to see the facility.
And we were shocked that they allowed you to come in and answer that many questions.
They actually had a handler there for me too.
Okay, to continue on, one of the other goals, contribute to the East Goshen Township quarterly newsletter with information in easy to understand formats for the public. Attend the Chester County Sunshine meetings. Revisit the East Goshen noise and public use ordinances. Obviously, you can only have so many ordinances that would limit a pipeline with eminent domain, but one of the things you can do is look at the noise and the public nuisance that is contributed to the township when they come in. And a lot of folks talk to me now and say, well, it's done and buried, it's done, it's out of the way. That's for this one. You never know what's gonna happen with the next one that comes through, because Adelphi is right around the corner and Williams behind them. So what we've seen here now could happen again. It may not be the last. Fill the vacancies on the task force. We have 2 members that did fulfill their agreement, commitments. And I really want to give a shout out to our chairperson, Caroline Hughes, and the member, Christine Worley, for their untiring devotion and commitment to pipeline safety in East Goshen Township. Their knowledge and their organization, the skills, the background, is unprecedented. They'll be sorely missed on the committee, but really want to shout out to both of them for everything they did. And then finally, explore specific pipeline emergency evacuation plan for the township, provide input to development of an appropriate plan. A lot of the neighbors that I do speak to that know I've been in this role for 3 years, they ask me different questions about why are you involved in this. I think we all need to have an understanding of what's going on under the ground within our township, just as you can see with the municipal authority, how many people really understand the sewers, the pumping station, everything, and the millions of dollars that goes in under the ground? Well, we've got something right now that's under the ground here that we have really no control of. So in closing, some specific items I've reviewed before, there's no agency in the state of Pennsylvania to approve siting authority of pipelines. Had there been a siting authority, maybe this pipeline never would have come through densely populated townships in Bucks, Chester County, and Delaware County. There are no specific requirements when a company decides to repurpose an old pipeline. So they could at any point in time choose to change product, reverse direction, put NGLs through a pipeline that perhaps wasn't built to handle it. There's no authority to control that decision. The pipeline company is responsible for monitoring the pipeline for defects and leaks. Pipeline companies also perform the risk assessment. They also perform the integrity management studies, and finally, they develop the emergency response plan. So you've kind of got the fox watching the hen house on this, and unless there's, engagement on townships to push back once in a while, board of supervisors, folks going down and asking the specific questions, you never know what you're gonna get. So that's really a general overview. I know it's not, it's not a real fancy committee. We don't have parks and recreation and things like that, but it is what it is, and we've done our best to advise the board over the last few years.
Bill, the advice that you've given us has been invaluable. And you're right, Christina and Caroline both should be commended for their tireless efforts. I want to speak to number 4. So coordinate meetings with the EMC and review the role of the EMC in the relationship to natural gas liquid pipeline safety. I had an opportunity in June at the very last minute to go to a drill where they were responding to an NGL line that had been breached. And it was in Chester County, and I'd like to at least make sure that one of the goals this year for us as a board is a tabletop drill. John and I wanted to do a tabletop drill when we came in, and they filled it dead. And so it was planned for that spring, and it got pushed off to never. So I'd really like that to be a goal for us, to have a tabletop drill here.
There was a tabletop done in Chester County, and the location was actually, Boot Road in front of Wellington as the location. So the material is available, for that tabletop, and I attended that tabletop, and I have to tell you, I walked away not real comfortable with, with an all hazards approach to a rupture in front of Wellington for concrete.
I was not really excited about my takeaway from the
I
live
want to
drill.
clarify, I wasn't dissatisfied with emergency services and part of emergency services and what they do. I was uncomfortable with, the impact of a rupture and ignition at that location because of the Catholic school, Wellington, the Comcast building with 300 employees. It was a frightening situation, and just anecdotally, I was sitting with some of the pipeline people, and when the facilitator announced the location, a woman from Williams, the pipeline, I heard her say to the other pipeline, "Oh, they picked round zero." Round zero. You need to go to the Township.
And so for that reason, I think that it's important for us to, as a board, have that opportunity to get here. Exactly. So I'd really like that to be something that we can do this year.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea as well. And one of the best meetings we had over the last 3 years with the Pipeline Task Force was in this room, December of 18, when we had all Chester County Emergency Services, Bill Turner, all his people here. We were able to have some open dialogue on how would you handle the specific emergency. And it was very enlightening. So yeah, I would absolutely support that, like to be part of it.
Thanks, Bill.
One item. Bill, of course, thanks, and again, double up on Caroline and Christina. Pipeline Task Force. Task Force there is a finite connotation with the task force, it's a specific focus, and then it is typically resolved. We are, we're looking, again, as we talked about ABC reorganization,
And as I look at the goals for 2022, I wrote down almost every one of them has something to do with safety. And so I just want to get your thoughts, and those of the task force, and you actually referred to them in a moment of conversation as a committee, what your thoughts are about a possible transition of the task force, whether it's sooner or later, into a more of a potentially a standing committee that may have a little different name, whether it's safety, sustainability, something of that nature, but your thoughts on it, because it is something we're actually talking about.
Well, I think you'd have members that would be open to that, because at this point in time, after 3 years, I think we've accomplished a lot. The fact that that Sunoco is moving out, Energy Trends is going to be moving out of our township, completely out, doesn't negate the fact that we're still going to have some other areas that we can put our hands to and touch base. But I think the committee would be open to dialogue, join up with another committee, what we could do. The one thing I do want to caution, I don't think we are qualified, this task force is qualified to be making decisions about emergency response plans for the township. I mean, there are people that are highly compensated and paid, that are experts that really should have their hands in writing that book.
Absolutely. Right, but that's a good point, something that we have talked about, and I'm glad that you would be open to that, because we still need people like yourself and the others on the task force who are watching carefully. We need that support. We don't have, otherwise, a chance, so we appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Much appreciated, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, I guess we're gonna move along here. Do we have somebody from Planning Commission? I think we do. And I think everybody else is here in the room. So I'm gonna just say while you're coming up, that we appreciate your volunteer work. I said this earlier, and I just wanna repeat it for those who were not in the room. We appreciate your volunteerism. We can't do all the things we do without your hard work. And we hope that you understand that we're looking at trimming things, consolidating things a little bit, and it's not to punish any person or group. It's simply a matter of, we do have to look at some ways of cutting down a little bit. We do have 16 ABCs that we are spread amongst, in addition to the board meetings every month, which means staff and recording secretaries have to be there as well. So as we operate currently, this is a lot of ABCs that a lot of other municipalities in the Commonwealth don't have. We're trying to come more in line with the other municipalities. So again, it's simply a cost and time saving measure and a way to work a little bit smarter maybe moving forward in the future. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Hey, John, how are you?
I'm John Slate with the Planning Commission. Just one housekeeping item before I start. This report shall serve as the Planning Commission's annual report required by Section 207 of the PA-MPC.
Thank you.
Planning Commission's significant accomplishments for 2021. As was mentioned before, we completed the pipeline awareness study ordinance, and that was approved by the supervisors this year. The next one was a variance, was residential, and it included a second shed on the property. The one for Enterprise Drive, that's the old PBC site, and CTEI was requesting a sign variance. The one for the Grecos was for a fence height change. And the one for ESKE development, the Dublin Early Learning Center was for a rear yard setback variance required because where the stake had been set. The next one is for on Reservoir Road, and that was a residential subdivision request. And then the last one there was for Imperial Marble, which was for a sign variance. I think you all just dealt with that one. And we completed a review of ordinance for the small wireless facilities, which is for the 5G rollout antennas believe we have that pointed out. And the last one is.
Yes, but.
Pass it on. And then the Business Park Task Force had planning commission representation, and we sent 3 members, myself, Mike Koza, and Ed Decker. And that's it for accomplishments for 2021. For our commission goals for 2022, they mainly come under the comprehensive plan 9.1 for maintaining and expanding the open space and recreation trail network, 9.2 for the Daily Bike Trail, and the linkage between Westchester, Melbourne, East Goshen, and West Goshen, and Wolvestown. Objective 7.2, road enhancement of business opportunities along the Westchester Bike Corridor, basically Route 3. Requesting supervisor provide the commission with direction on how to move forward. Plan objective 6.3, basically again, Route 3 and what your ideas would be along there. And the next one is the Judicial Neighborhood Development Ordinance, which we had recommended and was sent out to the supervisors. I believe that was all tabled because of the pandemic. So the chairman is looking for guidance on that, whether he wants to make any changes to it, or if he wants to be moving forward with it. Also, this fourth request to review existing township ordinances, with possible revisions and updates, and the planning commission shall focus on the remaining districts. The review of the Business Park Task Force report to identify any possible planning commission actions. We will be handling that with our next meeting in February.
Okay.
How do you do with meetings this year, John, relative to, I think, as far as I know, you conducted all meetings, there weren't any issues with quorums or anything of that nature, as I recall.
We were trying to the last one, but Arnie was able to attend during telephone call.
Yeah.
But overall, we had no problems with that. But the first couple meetings, I think we were still virtual.
Yeah, I think
Until about March.
Yeah, but.
Okay. So these are things for us to look at then as far as your goals. And I guess then we'll give you some guidance moving forward. I think that Cody needs to get up to speed on the comprehensive plan objectives. Quite frankly, as do I. I need to review some of these specific objectives. So I'd like to have a little bit of time to go over those. I actually have a comprehensive plan sitting on my desk right now. I was starting to review certain sections of that. So I'll review these, and I'd ask that we all take a look at all of these. Cody, if you don't have the comprehensive plan, we'll make sure you get one.
We'll throw that into our agenda for discussion item as a group.
I think so. I think that's a good idea. So we'll have to review those. And then in order to offer you guidance as to how to proceed, we should have discussion on that. So thank you for that. Thanks very much, John. Appreciate it. All right, moving right along. We have, Christy, are you here to make a presentation?
Yep.
Thank you. Come on up. Hello.
So good evening, everyone. Board members and staff that are here. Good evening to fellow volunteers on the other ABCs still here and those who may be listening. Is this on Zoom tonight?
Yes, it is.
All right. So, and a special good evening to every resident who's taken the time to hear about the accomplishments that have been achieved during this challenging year on your behalf. We're eager to share what we have already accomplished and what we hope to accomplish in 2022 to benefit you, your families and friends, your businesses, and all who visit East Goshen during the next 12 months. So what does it mean to sustain the beauty of East Goshen Township? What does it mean to want to do everything we can to make sure our East Goshen children have a clean future to look forward to? A future that includes the cleanest air and water we can provide. So how can one committee, our Sustainability Advisory Committee, help sustain the integrity of our gardens and playgrounds, our ponds and plantings? How can we advise and promote environmental protections for all of East Goshen? So here's some of the projects we accomplished this past year. I'm not going in the exact order of the outline in case you're following, and most of the items I will cover. And this report is a little longer than last year, but it's well under 15 minutes we have a wonderful committee, very, very active. Every one of them, they've been tremendously vigorous on behalf of this committee. So we have, as Jason perhaps talked about, the 2 large bins that were installed in East Goshen Park to collect single-use plastic bags and film. One of our committee members, who is an architect, designed an outside container with a lid to secure these bins, and Mark Miller's capable staff built those in-house and installed them in the park. So over a period of several months, as Jason mentioned, some of our committee members collected, well, our residents deposited over 500 pounds of these materials, and our committee members collected them and delivered them to the various locations like the Giant that had Trex, an association with Trex. So once we achieved our goal, we were credited by the Trex Corporation, and this handsome bench made out of recycled plastic materials is the result. So we hope to be able to have a plaque attached that can read, fabricated from 500 pounds of recycled East Goshen plastic. So then the bench can be added to the inventory of seating for the park. We will continue to share information with our residents about the types of plastic that can be recycled and the locations where they can be deposited. We also initiated a pilot program for the distribution of 100 lidded recycle bins. Within 2 hours, every single bin had been claimed, with many more residents in line wanting one. So our request for additional distribution of lidded recycle bins is being given careful consideration by our staff and supervisors, and a grant program offering reimbursement of 90% of the cost of these bins will hopefully be renewed for 2022. In order to help further reduce the use of single-use plastic bags, we ordered 100 bags made of recycled material, which are identified with our logo. And if anyone hasn't seen them, that's what they look like for the camera. All right. Since 85% of all purchases involve 3 items or less, doing our part to eliminate single-use plastic bags is an important goal for our committee. For our businesses to offer paper bags instead is really not a great option, both from the standpoint of the need to cut down trees to create these bags, but also because these bags are increasingly difficult and expensive to obtain because surrounding municipalities and entire states are banning plastic bags. So businesses in these locations are offering paper bags instead with a charge per bag. We don't wish to recommend a ban on plastic bags for East Goshen, but rather a program of encouragement for everyone to start bringing their own bags. Many of the initial order we placed for our multi-use bags have already been distributed, but we do have a few left for any board member who would like to take one and use for their own shopping, and Jason will be happy to provide you one. If anyone wants one, you can take this one tonight. All right. So our SAC committee participated in East Goshen Community Day, the Pumpkin Festival, and the Yearly Cleanup Day. Many birds, and most likely more than a few squirrels, enjoyed the bird feeders made by children and hung on trees in the park. East Goshen residents donated over 80 pounds of crayons and markers, which we were able to distribute. Some were mailed to a company that melts them down and remolds them for children in hospitals around the country. Crayons that were in new or near perfect condition have been donated to low-income programs in our area. We undertook an analysis of available data on waste management practices in East Goshen as a basis for future recommendations, a study that Tom spearheaded for us. We offered a survey to residents regarding their current sustainable practices and what they would like East Goshen to accomplish going forward. The free program available to us for this survey did have some limited options, but residents were so passionate about communicating their thoughts that many wrote extensive additional comments to explain their interest. This survey is being used to help us design talking points as we begin to meet with our businesses in East Goshen in the coming months. The survey is also being used to help us design a checklist to begin an awards program which will be called the East Goshen Sustainable Businesses. We hope to have our interviews completed and an awards program in place in time for perhaps our largest project for 2022, and that is a Sustainability Expo on April 24th. This date was chosen to coincide with Earth Day, which falls the Friday just before that, the 22nd. And our hope is that a number of awards can be given during the expo itself. During 2021, our SAC committee studied a particular area on the passive side of the park adjacent to the bridge that leads to Applebrook Golf Course. This bridge crosses over Ridley Creek. We brought in an expert from Pennsylvania Conservation and Natural Resources who advised us that this area is one of the most sensitive and important within our entire township in terms of stream conservation. He made several recommendations which we are working on. Our gardener laureate also visited the area with us and made additional recommendations. A few of these joint recommendations have already been passed on, and we'd like to give another big thank you to Mark Miller and his team for cleaning out a very large area of invasive plants and dead trees just beyond the bridge. In the coming months, you'll be hearing more from us about additional recommendations regarding the berm adjacent to the retention pond and suggestions to improve the riparian buffer for this section of Ridley Creek. In 2021, our SAC committee also began to look at composting opportunities for residents and businesses. You'll hear more about this, and it will likely be a subject discussed during our Sustainability Expo. During this past year, members of our committee have served with the following groups: the Council of Governments Clean Energy Future Committee, the Chester County Environmental Alliance, the Westchester Green Team, a multi-township energy transition team, the Southeastern Pennsylvania Sierra Club Committee, and the Hershey's Mill Nature Group. Also, one member has completed 80 hours of classroom and field training to become certified as a PA Master Naturalist. You will hear more about her project to complete that qualification for certification in the near future. She will be asking East Goshen to co-sponsor a project to benefit our township. The Master Naturalist Program is sponsored by DCNR, the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. So I will keep you here all night to describe all the projects we're discussing, but I've talked long enough. Suffice it to say, we're passionate about protecting our East Goshen environment and all sustainable practices that help us achieve that.
Thanks, Christy. I'm just going to point out that you also participated in the toddler trick or treat. There were a number of people from the SAC that participated.
Oh, I thought that was the pumpkin festival.
No, that's different.
I'm sorry, okay. Yeah.
Different. That was something else as well. So another thing you did, and yeah, yes, I was there with my witchy hat on, and I'm glad to see that you're going to be looking at the large metal items for recycling. We're going to be talking about that more as we move forward, hopefully. And
The
questions from
company
our-
in Westchester has already been invited to participate in the Sustainability Expo.
I understand, Mary did tell me that.
Yes.
But that is something that, actually I had brought to the board, to the SAC, I brought to them. I'd love to see us be able to get rid of some of the metals that we have in our trash, by putting them out maybe on Monday of the bulk trash week and allowing some of the more creative people who get out there and look specifically for metals to let them pick up those metals and recycle them on their own. Because that way we can get rid of the tonnage from our landfill, and we don't have some piece of metal sitting there rusting. It's going through the proper recycling. And so we do that on a regular basis at home. We just have a metal pile that we just continually add to. And we'll go over to the recycling center about once a year, sometimes twice a year.
We're also looking at avenues for glass distribution, because that's an
Another
increasing
Big
problem.
one, yeah. Thank you for all of that, and Christy, I hate to bring this up. Because we have that lovely bag. But, it's been suggested that in bringing the sack more in line with all the other townships, we rename you Environmental Advisory Board.
I was
So-
already advised of that last night, so I've been thinking about it all day.
That's just something that we're just tossing around. I don't think that it's something I wanna do right now because of the bags.
Oh, no, but we only ordered 100.
Okay.
And a bunch of them are already gone, and we can easily we talked about it at our meeting last night. We
Okay.
may just hold the rest from people that haven't sent us their address yet, and distribute them at the sustainability
You
expo.
too, that's a great idea.
But there are benefits, that David pointed out
Okay,
about
good.
being renamed as an EAC.
Yeah.
So it's understandable. As long as we get to keep doing our work, we'll answer Tom with any name that's reasonable.
Yeah, and EAC, by the way, is legislated, so that we
It
would
is.
have ordinance relations to forming that.
Exactly, and when you look at the surrounding townships, when I did a study, all of them have an EAC. We're one of two that had a sustainability advisory committee.
There are a few that actually have both, but I mean, as long as we can do the work, we're.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
Rose Lane, the other thing.
Chrissy, thanks so
Yes.
much. Just two comments. One, I don't know what event it was during the summer. I thought it was super cool that you guys had underneath the tent, you were, like, you had a game per se of like, I mean, I even learned something that day about what I can and can't recycle.
Yes.
So I appreciate you doing that. It was a really cool interactive activity. My next thing would be the bins. I was one of those people who did not get a bin because of from the 8 to 10, something like that.
Yes.
So if we can get that grant, I want to be first in line to let them know.
Michelle knows that conversation.
I didn't get
so-
one either.
Okay, so
I'll
we'll-
send it in my.
We came up with,
I would too.
we actually had a suggestion after it seemed problematic, we understand there are budgetary. If it's problematic to find enough money to put it in the budget, if there is still the 90% grant, I feel certain that enough of our residents would kick in the 10%, the little bit to make up the
Okay, you'd be
difference, so that it
charging the
wouldn't
difference.
cost the township, you know.
That's something that I don't know if we're permitted to do that, but I'm not sure that we're permitted to do that, but it's something that we are looking at, and it's something that we'll discuss later this year, and as you know, it's something that we had discussed. It actually would be on the 2023 budget, is what we had talked about, because the funds would not have to be released until then.
No, I understand. But if you are able to allow residents to pay the 10%, we wouldn't have to wait that long, but it's understandable, you'll figure it out. Jason knows what the grant requirements and. Okay, is there anything else I can answer for you? Does anyone want a bag before I leave tonight?
I will.
I'll
give
is there another one?
Oh,
I'll give Michelle.
you can put all of the ice in there and talk.
Jason's hoarding.
I saw you like 10 of them at the grocery store in Allentown. Yeah. Why does he have so many of those?
Thanks, Chrissy.
All right, moving along, then we've got the Conservancy. How are you?
I'm well.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out tonight.
So I probably don't need the mic, but I'll leave it on.
Everybody needs a mic. Everybody needs a mic.
I don't need a mic, and anybody that knows me knows I don't need it. Anyway, so we always start out, anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Sandy Snyder.
Sandy, this is Mike up here.
Oh, he doesn't need a mic either, I know. We are such good friends. We are such good friends, Mike and I, you have no idea. So I've been on the board for over 14 years. I'm now the current chair, once again, for the next 2 years. We always start this off by, humbly thanking Mark Miller and the former Ricky, who is no longer with us, but with us in spirit, obviously. We can't do this without them. I cannot even tell you, and now Susan Demore, I mean, the staff, Mark Gordon, we can't do this without them. And so thank you guys all for helping us along the way. Obviously, we also partner a lot with Jason. We were also at the toddler trick or treat. I wish I could have been there on the rescheduled date, but I had to work that day because my little guy would have absolutely loved that. So hopefully we'll make it next year. But we are a conservation board, and we try to protect any natural resources in East Goshen, from trees to rivers to animals, even those darn beavers that are just the bane of our existence. Gotta love that one little guy. He was spry. He was spry, wasn't he? Re-ran our river and driving people insane over there, flooding out the whole area. But we relocated him, sort of. Could be mounted on someone's mantle. I can't confirm that or not. We never actually got the real story from Ricky, but no. So we did a lot in 2021. Obviously, we all have this struggle with getting out there. But luckily with our board, we're outside. So, we were able to do a lot of things. We actually, we think maybe due to the pandemic, Michelle and I were joking about it because she was still like our liaison at the time. We think that the pandemic actually helped our Keep East Goshen Beautiful Day because people were like, we can go outside. We don't care what we're doing. We'll pick up trash. It was like the best year ever that we had. We had so many people. Like, we picked up when Mark gave us the numbers, we were like, we picked up so much. We had so many people coming, husbands and wives, and we just moved here, but we heard about this and we want to go out and walk. And I think people just want to get out of their house. Like, they were so excited to get out of their house. So we're going to do another one. Obviously, we do it every year, but we'll have it similar to Sustainability Committee. We do it around the Earth Day every year. It just kind of helps tie things in. So obviously we had a very successful Keep East Goshen Beautiful Day. Mike came to one of our meetings and actually started this, dialogue about, what do we do it more than once a year? To maybe not get so into, like, we talked about the PennDOT adopting a highway. You guys already been down that road, with the Planning Commission, that's a big commitment, right? So, Mike had kind of mentioned to us, look, where would you guys feel about what should we do? Should we try to do this more than once a year? And so obviously, I don't know where that ever fell, but, just wanted to let it be known, we would still obviously do whatever we could to help with that. If you wanted us to take that on as another goal, although it's not in the comp plan, obviously, we would welcome that with open arms. Nobody likes pulling up at a stop sign. I don't care what part of the township you're in, you look out your window and you're like, oh, come on. And so doing it only once a year, we do, and we get residents that'll tell us, oh, are you guys gonna do another one? Because I pulled up at so-and-so's intersection and there was like bottle cups and, so we know it's an issue, obviously. And because we know we are a crossroads, right, we're cut through kind of township for a lot of people trying to go to other places, we know, and all residents know those kind of high spot areas where people are just out at a red light and they're just chucking stuff out the window. So obviously, if the board would want us to do 2 a year, more than that, come up with another committee where we could get maybe standing resident volunteers, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Westchester Christian Academy, whatever, to come out and say, oh, we'll do this a couple times a year, and then still have the big event once a year. We would be fine with that. We've discussed it, and that would be fine. We do all the bluebird houses. This says Applebrook Park, but we actually do Applebrook, and there's houses across from Reservoir as well. So we go in every year, we clean them out. If you don't know bluebird houses, you have to clean them out or they won't come back. Mark builds them for us and installs them for us. So if residents or other committee members on other boards, if you guys ever see any that are like really bad looking in certain areas, just send me an email, let me know. And then, we'll let Mark know where it's at and we'll go out and look at it. We'll get it knocked, take it down and put a new one up.
Are they actually blue?
Yes.
The birds?
Are they blue bird houses?
They're actually like a gray. They're like a gray.
Bluebird.
Yeah.
They're absolutely spectacular if you get them in the right light.
Yeah.
The females, the males are just,
So the houses themselves are meant to be muted into the countryside, if you will, so that they don't just like stand out, but the birds themselves are cool.
There's a location that's almost a tourist attraction now. It's in Vermont, and somebody has put out like 100 bluebird houses, and they're all painted different colors along the side of the road. It's really amazing to go by and see it. So maybe
do partner with the arts, yeah, I mean, that would be great.
Our version of mural art.
Mhm.
I would paint them with cans.
But we know that they've been successful. I mean, residents tell us, obviously, especially the ones on Reservoir Road, they like to look at them because like when the winter grasses grow up. But we know that it's successful because you would know, because when you go in to clean it, if it's empty, then you're like, oh, it didn't, something happened and they didn't. But they're there every year. They're always, I mean, Mike's helped
We're
us
seeing
clean
more
them.
of them too.
Yeah, I
More
mean,
bluebird.
you have to go out. We'll go out in the next couple weeks, like real early in March, we go out and do it.
They're worth propagating. They're just like the bees. They are worth seeing. They're every time I see one, I think we're gonna have good luck. So I hope you see some this year.
Yeah, so they'll eat mosquitoes, and Mark also helped us, even though it's not on here, Mark also helped us build bat houses, so there are some in the park. You can't really see them because we purposely don't let people kind of go near them, but they'll eat mosquitoes as well. And we have plans up on the website, so any resident that wants to learn how to build a bat house for their house, literally their own property, it's up on there, and it was provided to us from an actual engineer at Villanova who prepared the little schematic for us. So, we would encourage residents to put bat houses out. They're really, really beneficial, especially in years where you have high mosquito problems. So that's not on here, but we always, like I said, are always looking for new places to put them. Climbers Woods, we did a lot of maintenance in there this year. Again, I think because we were trying to just get out and make it nice for residents because they were out so much this year trying to get out of their house. So we identified multiple dead trees that were in Climbers Woods. If you're not familiar, it's the entryway of the township off Line Road. And we went in with, again, Mark's help, and we ripped down the old trees, got them out of there, put brand new trees up. They're doing really, really well. Mark has a watering program. He goes in, he waters them, and then we wood chip them in November and December of this year. And that will help them now.
Not for nothing, but it sounds like Mark is doing a lot of the work. Which is fine, but you're a volunteer committee. I would expect that you would do more of the work.
Well,
They do all the chipping and all
they
that.
drop the chips off and these guys fresh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have like a 4-foot auger out at my house to dig the hole for the tree. If I did, I'd run that thing, and I'd be out there running. I don't have an auger, so obviously if we dig a 4-foot wide, 3-foot wide hole, it would probably take me about 3 hours just to dig the hole, then to have to fill it back in. Which we used to do.
Well, Eric would bring his backhoe.
And we have had Eric. Eric has used his own equipment, his own gas.
Yeah.
He uses his own equipment, and we don't get reimbursed from the township. He doesn't get reimbursed for the gas. But yeah, we do a lot of work, whatever we can do on our own. And we have dug the holes before, and gosh, did it take us like weekends to get a planting in. And obviously, the best result for the budget of the township is if we spend money on trees, anybody that knows, you got to get them in the ground. Like, it's not a good idea to say, oh, let's take 3 weekends to do this planting, and then they're sitting and they're not we want to get them in the ground, get them covered, get them watered, and we want them to be successful, because if not, we're just racist.
The members themselves do go out and check out the birdhouses, and
we do all the birdhouses. Mark just builds them and installs them for us.
Well, for instance, back when the trees that we planted at Maryville, we did it.
Oh, yeah.
It was Eric that had the backhoe.
Actually, at that point, yes, Eric was the one that brought the auger in and the backhoe, and we were there,
But Climbers Woods is a good example. It is now starting to look like a little mini woodland.
It does, yeah, people are really responsive. Yeah, and the wood chips, really, really help when we go out and wood chip them. They're gonna help preserve the longevity of the tree. And the residents really, really like that walking path. So we did that twice, and we'll probably go out again, frankly, in March. There's probably about 10 more trees that still need wood chips. So the other thing that we've started now, and we're not sure, where it's gonna go, is we're gonna help the township do their Tree City USA application. We, again, would be more than willing if the board looks over the 2022 goals and wants to add anything that's receptive to the grant that's not on here, because we don't know if we're gonna get it. Of course, put it on. If there's something we need to do, plant a certain amount of acreage or something like that, just add it, and we'll make sure that it gets done, so that we are fulfilling the Tree City USA grant if we can get it. We just don't know, what they're gonna ask of us of our size township, so. But we think that, if it's feasible, could be a great thing. for the township. We just don't know which way it's gonna go based on just the rules of the Tree City USA. So another thing that's not on here, is that we always do newsletter articles. We do them for every single newsletter, and we would always continue to do them. We also worked with the East Goshen tree tenders a lot this year with Eunice's group. I would say her volunteers came out, which was really great to interact with them. So I think almost every single planting, every single event, she even came out, and helped us wood chip. So that was really great. That's a new relationship now that we have with those folks. And now we go and help them. So when they have an event, she'll tell us there's gonna be this planting, and our board members will go and do plantings with them. So for our 2022 goals, we, although it doesn't say, just so you guys know from past BOS boards, we now tailor our goals to the comp plan once we wrote the comp plan. So again, if you guys want us to put something else on there, you just have to let us know, and we'll absolutely add it, or you guys add it for us, so just let us know. So we manage East Goshen, as I said, keep East Goshen beautiful day now. We've done it now, we took over about 8 years ago. Our tentative date is April 23rd, again, to coincide with Earth Day. We're going to continue our Bluebird House maintenance as we always do in Applebrook Park and on the ones on Reservoir Road. Climbers Woods is our little baby. We'll be out there making sure there's no dead trees, and if they are, we'll get them replaced, we'll get them wood chipped and watered, and keep them looking nice over there. Speaking of maintaining riparian buffers, let us know anything that they, even maybe let us know so one of us can go out if there is a site walk. That berm is also important. Our riparian buffer that we're probably gonna plant this year is the one at Stroudsburg Road in Westwater. It's a huge part of Chester Creek. We waited, we were gonna do it about 4 years ago, but when they were redoing the dam, we were like, you know what? We're not really sure where it's gonna go, and if it floods too much, it could kill everything. So we wanted to kind of wait to see where the stream was gonna go down further, so now we can kind of see where it's at. But we're probably gonna do a major planting in there, obviously nowhere near the sewer line where Mark has to mow, but down really like literally hip waders, like shoving birch trees like into the side of the buffer, and rebuffer that whole area over there.
Scouts.
It's
It has to be
interesting.
done again.
You have to rope to each other because sometimes like you just get pushed down the river, like even in hip waders.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and it is pretty amazing to watch like birch trees just grow because you stuck a birch stick, like, and it's amazing. But that all needs to make sure, especially if the plan of revitalizing down further continues to evolve. You don't want erosion back right there, or everything you just worked for down here is going to be ruined. So we really want to focus on that this year. We think that with the, the discussions that we've had, it's probably best to plant in October with that kind of planting because it's so wet there. If we try to plant in the spring, some of the little guys that we plant just may not make it. So October should be like the perfect time. The water's still not super cold yet, you can get in the water. So that's what we're gonna plant mainly in our major planting this year. We always control all the invasive plant species. So again, if you know of an area that has invasives, please let us know. Obviously let Mark know as well. He can go in and rip them out as well. But we can also make sure that once Mark rips them out, if we add that to our list of our invasive species maintenance, we won't have to do it again. You know what I mean? We'll be able to monitor it better. So just let me know where that location is and we can add it to our list when our invasive species guide goes out in about April, he starts to go out. Again, we're gonna keep working with Mark Gordon with preparing the East Goshen application for the Tree City. Continue assisting with the pond restoration projects. I know some of that kind of was, but we're always at all those meetings. And we will obviously work with NLT and whatever landscape plans need to be made and help with the restoration of those areas as well. We're gonna try to plan an Arbor Day event, again, kind of going with the Tree City.
Tree City.
Yeah, so that was one thing that we
Requirement.
knew, right. So again, anything else that you guys see as you're writing these or, let us know and we will absolutely incorporate them, but, can't incorporate something that we're not aware of. So just keep us up to date. We constantly do events with Wolvestown Conservation Trust. They're right, they're right there. We'll go to their walks, we'll go to some of their events that they have. And again, they'll come to ours, which is really great. we also have, even though it's not on here because it just, kind of happened, so we lost another member. She transferred to a different board, so now we're at 5. So we're definitely looking to fill the 2 vacancies because we're such a physical board, like, it's really a detriment to us. Like, if we don't have those people out planting at these, not that you guys do come and that's fantastic, but, it is hard, obviously, to get a planting done when there's 4 people. Whether, no offense, whether Mark's there or not, if there's still only 4 people, it's really hard to get that done. So we definitely need a full board, just for the manpower, frankly. And then obviously, we're gonna continue to do the newsletter articles, and anything else that comes our way.
So, I have a question.
Sure, Dave.
Precious Mill Dam project is going to be completed in 2022.
Dam.
In the next couple months, and there's going to be, plantings and running buffers and all that kind of stuff. Are you engaged in that project?
We're not, but we could be. We were very active in it in its infancy. Like I said, it was 10 years ago. It's scary to think about.
That, yeah.
So, but obviously, as it kind of took different paths, we weren't so much anymore. But we absolutely would, and we would assist in any nature that would be needed, even if it's just simply having the arborist on board look at the plantings and what would survive that area, what's worth, because again, it comes back to the dollar, honestly. Like, we don't want you guys to put money into something that is in a high deer area. Okay, are they gonna eat everything? You're gonna turn around and they're gonna eat everything? It's pretty, it looks pretty, but if it's gonna be destroyed, that was a waste of finances and effort, So that's really how we really look at it. So we would absolutely be willing to do.
Well, there's gonna be future oversight there, once things are, it becomes the mill dam park, if you will. And, so that, there'll be ongoing stewardship necessary. But this, the conversation's kind of melding into this prior conversation we just shared with Christie, that an environmental advisory council may be able to meld both conservancy and into a group, maybe in that more active group with some stems on it to do different things or to have different focus. So that's something that, is going to be part of our discussion.
Yeah, well, I went to school, I don't practice in it now.
You know about it.
But yeah, I'm an environmental lawyer, Walt's an environmental engineer, Scott's an arborist.
Yeah.
Really Eric is everything. He can do so many things, his knowledge is unbelievable. We would definitely, a lot of the areas do crisscross. We were the whole reason that there's recycling in the park. Like, we started that saying, I can't believe we're not recycling in the park.
Why are we doing that? Right.
What is happening? Why are we, and then we went to the recycling center when it first started, and like, we were integral in getting the mainstream recycling so that it wasn't so hard for residents to recycle. We fully support, everything that they're doing. And we would do whatever you guys.
That may come.
I think that makes sense.
It does make sense, and Christie's group has the Wolvestown Conservation Trust come in occasionally as well.
Right.
They do things together, nature walks and whatnot. So I think this is a very nice hand-in-hand kind of relationship that the two have, and really bringing even ponds. Everything. It just makes so much sense because of the expertise on the conservancy. Just bringing that, I think bringing that to specifically to sustainability. I think Christie would have a sense of ease knowing that there is another oversight within the township, and the SAC doesn't have to see everything and do everything in that regard. And I think that that's important because I think that we all have a specialty, and I think that bringing the two of you together would actually be a perfect match.
Yeah, the ENC can be all encompassing and have a really robust agenda and
Well, it would benefit us because it would give us more people. And you need that, you know what I mean? You just need more physical labor people that want to go out and get their hands dirty, that don't mind walking to a stream.
We'll help you.
Right, to pick up trash. People think it's fun until they're in the middle of the stream trying to lug a tire out. And you're like, this is insane. I can't get this tire out. It's crazy, but that's what you need. So yeah, I think we would be on board, again, whatever benefits the township.
Sandra, thanks for everything to couple quick comments. One, last year's first year was the keeping schedule. I thought it was really cool that you guys provided all the township, or you guys provided all the trash bins, or the trash bags.
The township.
Yeah, all that. Okay, we'll do for township. But then my next comment would be, I would love if we did one in the fall. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, and again, as long as the township is willing to, and again, we have so many supplies, like we could probably do, yeah, so like, yeah, so we can easily probably do two. I would agree, like I said, talk to Mike, you guys are, on the same team now, talk to Mike and find out. We would be willing to do whatever you guys thought was beneficial. But we know we have a littering problem because we're asking township.
Sandy, I think you know this, and Cody, I'm not sure whether you're aware of this yet, but as Mark knows, it's built into our trash and recycling contract program. We have collection that AJ Blazinski does for us on a periodic basis that you will engage in. So we have, I don't know whether we build in 6 or 8 of them each year for targeted areas, particularly areas that we're not comfortable as residents being out there, like the 352 corridor. That's not a comfortable area.
Although you had Mark shut the road down, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, that was effective, but.
Because we're just gonna shut the road down for like 15 minutes.
So there's another prong to that as well, that we were able to integrate.
Got a lot of trash or something.
So that's helpful, and that's made a difference, I think. But,
The other thing is, and I noticed in my own neighborhood, because a lot of people in my neighborhood don't have covered bins for recycling. It blows all over the place. I'm constantly picking up my neighbor's trash.
I got some of those the other day.
Another benefit to the covered.
I know, I was gonna say that, but I was like, I don't wanna get involved with the covered bins, but it absolutely would help, especially the residents who live Tree, like when you abut a stream. I mean, some of it is just blowing around. I mean, it really is. It's blowing right out of bins, if somebody's not putting it in the bag.
No, it's good to think of. Thanks, Sandy, very much.
Just a couple things. You had a long list. You also helped Mark identify area along the new Pillar Pike Trail and in Applebrook Park where 5 new deciduous trees were planted for shade along the trail.
Yeah.
So, and then also, and you alluded to it a little bit, but I wanted to expand on it a little bit. So the Wolvestown Conservation Trust reached out to us, and one of their board members is a resident on Line Road. And he asked for some input and some partnership between the 2 groups. So we put them together. We had a Zoom call, just kind of unofficial, to get some momentum going there. And then these 2 groups took off with it. And the Wolvestown Conservation Trust did a very nice riparian presentation about the benefits of planting and within the riparian zones and how that could be beneficial in certain areas. And then they talked about stream temperatures and monitoring stations and all kinds of different things that are out there to give more information to our groups to understand the health and of our streams.
Yeah, thank you. And that presentation was actually really beneficial because that was the first time we saw water test results since it was in the Daily Local. That one time, like 5 years ago when they published all that, that was the first time I think we had seen, because they paid to have a water test done on their streams that really come right through our township as well. And so that was really beneficial that we were able to see that.
Yeah, Wolvestown's been doing a stream study in their park right down off of Strasburg Road. So the 55-acre park they have down there that we have a 5% stake in as a township, they've been doing significant riparian plantings, turbidity studies, all kinds of stuff. So if we could just keep those blue herons out of the stream when they're monitoring turbidity, we might get a better result. But
So Lauren McGrath did a seminar for us, but I now have a good relationship with Stroud as well, and they will also send experts to help us because I work with them for the PA Master Naturalist. They already came to Hershey's Mill, their water expert came.
Oh, that's great.
So we can add them in to work with Lauren or, to have additional input.
Yeah.
Those 2 groups would be great resources when you do a site walk along Supplee or Ridley or wherever you want to do a riparian kind of enhancement. Just to say, are we on the right track? This is what we're thinking. And they'll probably have a lot of great ideas and a lot of, support and give you resources and stuff like that.
By the way, if you haven't seen it, it's worth looking at the Chester County 2021 annual report, Chester County Water Resource Card, because it gives the health of the streams in the county. And both Chester Creek and the Ridley Creek, they're doing okay. There's been some improvement, but it is they still need a lot of attention.
A lot of it's sediment too,
Well, that's right, that turbidity issue is a big one with the,
A lot of
with
it's
the erosion. But anyway.
which is why we're trying to, like I said, get in there and get some plantings in there because we know that a lot of it's not trash, a lot of it's sediment, just years and years and years of sediment.
But it's very interesting you say that, Mike, because I had come to a presentation that they had held here regarding the health of our waterways in the county and how it affects everything downstream, and it was a really eye-opening experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, I'm sorry that you are so late getting up here. Please, Tom, come on up.
Just one question.
Sure.
Have you thought of asking for any corporate sponsorship for the clinic? I'm thinking specifically Wawa.
We do, yeah, so we actually do. We usually reach out to the health and safety resource manager, like over at Cynthi's. We haven't tried Wawa, but I will absolutely.
There's a lot
They
of.
have a great volunteer.
Yeah, I know.
They have a great volunteer
They
program
do.
within their company.
They do.
They
and-
really do.
Yeah, and we've had like ING came out back in the day when they were, so we have had, local banks, like we have like a little flyer that we make up. So we do try to go to like TD Bank and, especially the people right here, the banks right here. And say, right, and say, do you guys do anything with your people? Do you have volunteer efforts?
Or just supplies.
But we
Or just
just,
supplies.
All right. You got me.
and sometimes we do, we always tell people, like, if you can't come that day, just come to the township.
Sure.
Mark Gordon has a deer committee section that comes, and they never come on the day. They just tell me where they cleaned up, and then we'll send the guys out to go get the trash. So yeah, you don't have to come on the day. That's like a fallacy. Just in like a 2-week period, we try, because we get money back from it. So they're trying to load the tonnage and get an amount.
But when we go for supplies, please know the little individual plastic bottles and stuff, we'll talk with you about, it's the wrong message, because
I was gonna say, why don't the two of you get a chance to talk? We're gonna put Tom up here. We're almost 9 o'clock.
We
It's
don't
almost
supply
10
them,
o'clock.
they do.
No,
Grab a snack.
Yeah, we don't supply them.
So anyway, good evening.
Thanks for coming, Joe.
Yeah, I don't add tonight, so, but I do, I want to recognize a couple of people. First of all, Rod Vaughn, resigned from our board this fall. He was another thing that we had. He was one of our charter members, so he was the key guy and all the stuff that we kind of studied from the beginning, what areas we want to look at. And then recently, Brian Speed also resigned. He had some other things that he needed to get done too, so we've gotten thinned down a little bit, but we still have a pretty good group with. Yeah, it is. Well, that's the other thing I was going to mention. I want to recognize Dave, because he's been a great addition to our group as a staff liaison. And also, pardon?
My brother.
Yeah, it's been fun to have you, Dave. And also Susan Moore, before Dave got on board, she did a terrific job of our minutes. It was a good, just a great number. And then finally, we'd like to welcome Cody as our new board liaison, so we're excited to have him on board. So first, I'd like to just provide you with a little bit of background on what our objectives and accomplishments were for 2021 and how we got to there. A little over 2 years ago, and some of you have heard this before, but I'll go ahead because I'm not sure everybody did. Michelle attended one of our meetings when she was running for supervisor, her current supervisor role. At that time, she challenged us on how we knew how residents felt on a particular item we were discussing. And I thank you for that, Michelle, because at that time, we had a small committee of just 3 people, and we had some pretty good connections, a network of friends and family in the township to get feedback. But the question definitely deserved more thought. So entering into 2020, we began to look at ways we could reach out to capture more resident feedback on township issues by developing neighborhood focus groups. And we had put together a whole network of possibilities there. And then we thought we could tap into existing neighborhood groups and spend some time at a regular meeting that they have, maybe in their local.
Their annual meeting.
Their annual meeting, whether there's staff meeting, the group meetings. And we would introduce ourselves and we would elicit feedback on what residents in the neighborhoods felt that the township couldn't feed on. Then COVID hit, okay? And kind of changed our plan. And so fortunately, one of our newer members at the time, Brandon Block,
worked for a digital survey company, and so we began to explore if we could successfully digitally survey residents and get a representative sample. Hence, the survey project began to develop late in 2020, when we received board approval to develop an actual survey. We looked at the number of surveys other communities had developed and took the best parts of each one that were applicable to East Goshen. The idea here was to do a broad-based survey to gauge how residents felt about their township, which areas interested the most, and how the township rated in those areas. So the resident survey was rolled out in April. The response was much better than we thought, with over 600 responses. We also received more than 150 specific comments, so the people were engaged, and many people were really engaged. Based on 2020 Township census data, the results indicated that the survey was representative of East Goshen Township overall. It's one of the benefits of having a survey guy on your board. He can tell you what's good and what's bad. The survey showed us that residents have a strong connection to East Goshen Township, not just Westchester area, which a lot of people have thought in the past that the connection to East Goshen Township maybe wasn't that strong, but what we found was that it's really strong. They rated the township performance strong in overall quality of life, feeling of safety, quality of parks and recreational programs for all ages. Jason, I think we knew that was going to be a strong one. Quantity and quality of green space. Some of the areas were a little bit mixed, and it was probably a little bit because of the way the survey was so broadly set up. So they had mixed levels of importance and performance. And those were the quality of bike and pedestrian facilities and trails, how well the township is managing growth, the value received for the township tax dollars, and the convenience of local restaurants, shopping, and services. And one thing that was encouraging to us is most residents responded that they would be interested in participating in future surveys. So, at the, that's not a survey. So that's where we ended on the survey for last year. But also, at the end of 2020, we also joined the planning group to form a task force to assess the current revenue. This is the business park task force, to assess the current revenue of the township from business parks, create a document with key information on each business, assess the future outlook of employment levels of each existing business, and then create an action plan to address any concerns. And from our committee, Jeff O'Donnell and Brian Sweet were on that group, and they represented us. They shared with the group the research that we had previously done and gathered on the future of business parks in general. We had started that work before the 2020 period. And the other information that they would need to complete the task force objectives. And then Jeff actually headed the committee as chair. So the task force presented the results that they were to the board of supervisors in late 2020. Now, looking forward to 2022.
Late 21.
Huh?
Late 21 was when business park task force presented it.
You're right.
I just started.
Thank you.
2020, 2021 seems like one.
It does. The last 2 years have seemed like one big
It's so
year after.
confusing with this COVID stuff. It's thrown us all out.
Yeah, exactly. So now looking at 2022, everybody hear there? That's where we are. We'd like to survey our residents on 3 areas that we felt were not fully captured in the general survey. First, the future interest in adding neighborhood feeder trails to tie into the Daily Pipe Trail. Second, future interest in maintaining the current level of green space. And finally, future interest in adding streetlights, East Goshen banners, street trees, and a gathering area with benches along Daily Pipe between CBS and Wawa. So these are the 3 areas that we, after lots of discussion, decided that we needed to deal with it with a dive, and then we thought it would be valuable. So we plan to present any recommendations that would result from this survey to the board of supervisors for any follow-up action. And we would hope to go get that done in the second quarter, so we'll get back to you by that time period. We're gonna, right now, we're trying to get on the agenda for next week, come back to you with a revised, questionnaire survey, and, I think we got, I think we maybe we'll find a little bit more, either like it and come back to it. We hope, hopefully. So, and in addition to the survey, we'd like to research and propose other mechanisms to gain resident feedback on key East Goshen initiatives. And one of these examples might be to go back and revisit the idea of neighborhood focus groups and see if we could have them those groups, in engaging the community from on a broad base, what they're really interested in. Okay? And then finally, this is an area we'd like to develop, and it's something that we haven't given much thought, to be honest with you, other than one area, but we'd like to propose some new ideas to help transform the Westchester Pike corridor and the Railroad Pike business corridor into more functional and attractive areas. I think maybe there's some more new ideas out there that we haven't surfaced yet, so we have to do that. So anyway, that's kind of it.
Well, I have a question. Sure. Wolvestown did a community survey that they're using in their planning. And they got a 48% response rate now. Admittedly, they only have 27 houses in the entire Is there any way, we have 8,600 doors in East Goshen Township, any way that we can aggregate our initial survey, statistically, because of the demographics was credible data, and useful data. Any idea of how we can improve the response of surveys?
Yeah.
Make it easier.
Yeah, we can mail out a survey to every single resident calculation.
They mail it.
That's what they did, they mailed it.
Everybody doesn't do it.
Yeah.
One way you can get that kind of response.
In the nineties, when we did a statistical ballot survey, that's what we did.
Yeah. It's not that expensive, it's a piece of change, but it's not a killer.
Actually, probably sending out the survey itself is not that much. Receive it, yeah, gather all the data.
Yeah, Mark
Jeff had a contact with Wolvestown, and he.
He's got a machine right in the shop, right? You just put that.
And it was a pretty major effort.
Yeah, I'm sure.
How long was your survey?
Pretty long.
It was long, and it was all encompassing, it was really broad.
And then, how many emails did you, I was on board, how many emails did you send out when we were encouraging the survey? Is that a fair question?
In ours?
Yeah.
Well, we sent out at least 2 or 3, I think, on contact. We posted it on the board.
There's several different things.
So I have an idea, I don't know if we can correlate if it's legal, but everyone gets a sewer trash bill. That's something that we have to send out anyway, right?
Yep.
Are we allowed to put other stuff on there?
Yep. We do.
So we can put on there too.
We do.
Well, the mix of bill with a survey might not be good for accounts receivable.
It's tough.
But it's also the way that it's folded, it's sizable still.
I'm just trying to think of a way to say that everybody has to go out.
But you might be able to put a QR code or something on it so that they could just go right to the survey.
Look, we do send out a newsletter. We still, we're not doing it, no more credit cards. That's
I'd like to have a
unfortunate,
discussion
because
with
we could have
future
put the survey in the newsletter.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
That's
maybe
what-
we can, it's worth thinking about, coming back to the board.
I think that's something.
We have all the investors.
Yeah. Yeah, we just were concerned, at least the one paper newsletter, maybe we go and start it.
It was interesting. I participated in that focus group with Amanda, and that came out as one of the things that people saw that it's a really positive thing.
The paper newsletter still remains a
Yep.
viable
Always.
vehicle in local government. People read it. More than throw it.
That might be something like that.
It's worth a reconsideration.
The paper, I was reading up in the very thirties, keep one paper.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I decided, in East Bradford, we did 4 of them. I think we're still doing 4, they're doing 4 a year. 2 of them, obviously all of them end up on electronic, and 2 of them were specifically electronic and 2 were paper.
Yeah.
One was typically in the new year with the new budget on it, and the other was later on in the fall.
We might go back to that. Remember, the reason we cut back on that one, bunch of other things, is because we thought our revenues would have drastically cut because of those.
Yeah.
And they weren't.
That was one of the reasons, so
Also,
it's something we want to consider.
Physically printing, I mean, what happened with the township news, we got them a month late because the printers weren't printing and couldn't get paper and they couldn't, people got on COVID and stuff.
Right.
And remember, our newsletter was partially paid for by our advertising,
Exactly.
which some municipalities feel less comfortable with. We didn't, when I moved back, we didn't do that, but it's a great way to balance the cost.
I
And
want to say that I feel like the newsletter was almost, if I'm not mistaken, Jason, almost.
almost entirely, what-
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a
It was
little
very
bit of it, but not
not the
much.
mailing, the printing of it was almost
Yes.
covered with the advertising.
That was 100% covered. We just had to take care of the mail.
The mailing, yeah, that's what I thought, it covered the actual, formatting, in the
I
printing.
have to think about that.
So
Maybe we can go back to that.
So that may play into that.
In the future, and then we can give the option in the newsletter too, like, if you want to receive this electronically, sign up to here, and we can do that through email.
Reduce, we pull them out of the stack.
West Whiteland just did a really statistical valid survey, and that's what they did too. They put a whole page in the newsletter, and then, there was a couple months that went through the process, and then their results came out.
See what their recent survey looks like. West White, they just, yeah, Mark just said that, West White just did a survey, community-wide survey.
Yeah, let's look at that. All
That's
right,
good.
so, I think at this point, we could probably, I would say, I don't have any other questions at this point. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Thanks to the staff for sticking around till 9:15 almost here, so Tom, thanks so much for everything.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And, I think that I will say that this meeting's adjourned. I don't think that we have to have an official, do we?
Oh, I wanted to make a motion.
Make a motion, go ahead,
I
John.
moved to adjourn. So I'm saying, if you want it, I can see you wanted to say.
Okay, calling the question, aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, thanks, everybody.
Dave,
Thank you.
Mark, Jason, thanks for being here.
You bet.
And Derek, wherever you are, we missed you.
Mark
Get
Mark
well.
Miller.
Ruth, thank you.
Mark Miller, can I get you to watch my car before you go?